All right, we are live. Welcome into another episode of the Law Car Lads. I'm Ryan,
I'm Peter.
And I'm Markello.
and we have went through basically the first wave of free agency. I think all the hype is kind of over now.
And, all the big names are gone. Well, actually, I don't even want to say that because there's still some guys out there. Richard Sherman's still a free agent, but the big guys, mainly like the receivers and stuff like that, are all signed and locked up.
Yeah, I would say the secondary markets is what's left, but pretty exciting first week. There's I feel like a lot of different teams were active. Obviously, when we were recording the first few days, it was kind of the Texans and Patriots.
Yeah.
And Markello's Dave Gettleman Giants hopped on the board over the weekend. Got very active.
We had a few signings like at first where I was just like, bro, these aren't Kenny Galladay. They just don't care. Don't announce them.
I think we should start with that, Markello. How are you feeling locking up Kenny?
Oh, dude, I'm on top of the world right now. I like it.
You're happy with the contract, though?
It's a bad contract. It's really like, if you look at the caliber receiver you're getting, he's really not that highly paid. Like, that's what you have to pay to get a number one. So at the end of the day, if Kenny Galladay said, like, I need $18 million a year to play in a Giants uniform, you have to pay him $18 million a year. Like, there's no other way around it. Do you want him or you don't want him? So
my concern.
You could have got him for cheaper.
Obviously, the Giants were the highest bidder. I think the second highest bidder did not pass maybe like 14 or 15 million.
I think the Bears apparently went all in on like 11 or 12. So when I seen 18, I was stunned.
I saw the Bengals offered him 13.
Someone offered 14, I was reading, but I wasn't.
Maybe it was the Bengals, but that's what I'm saying. So you could have gotten him for 16, if anything. It was still.
Apparently he wanted the Giants too. If you listen to him before free agency, apparently like he was just he liked New York in this situation. So I don't think money was obviously a factor. Once you gave him 18 million, he was already locked in that he was coming. But yeah, I think you could have gotten cheaper for. But then again, I don't know if you would have signed him. I don't know if it would have been a long-term deal then if it wasn't 18 at the same time. You know, like if he came here on a 1-year deal worth 15, is that really like for Daniel Jones' sake? It's probably the best that they got him long-term, but the contract's a little bit questionable.
Look, bro, it's like the same situation that like Le'Veon Bell and the New York Jets went through. Like you guys overpaid for him, but like that was the number. Like that was the number that was required to get him to come here. So
don't compare that because he sucked here. So like,
no, that's what I'm saying. Like, we don't know what Kenny Galladay is going to be here. I hope he doesn't. I hope it's not the Le'Veon Bell situation because I'm going to be looking at that contract in a year or two and being really pissed. But
like it's all on Daniel Jones now. Like he hasn't. There's no more excuses.
Daniel Jones has zero
to win
excuse.
Football games.
Like zero excuse. No reason to lose any games now. So.
All right. Well, what do you have you guys have in the division? Because I know Washington made some great moves this offseason so far in free agency. Where do you guys see yourselves in terms of your division?
Second or third.
You don't think you're winning it?
It could it depends. It really comes down to like the matchups like within the division. So like we would have to beat Washington twice to even lock that up. But
you did last year.
Yeah, we did last year. So it really depends. Like I think we're a significantly better team than we are. We made a lot of good signings, like filled a good amount of holes. Leonard Williams' contract is a little gross, but it is what it is.
Very gross.
Is there any way you guys can move off of that in like a year or two?
I don't think. I have no idea.
Because nobody's going to trade for him.
I think 2 to 3 years are guaranteed in that deal.
Yeah, I think 3 years are guaranteed. Okay. So.
And we'll get to the Giants, but it was pretty cool. So just for anyone listening, we are going to do a mock draft again, 2.0 next week. Actually, comment if you want us to do it on live or on Zoom. We don't really care, but the live stream was pretty cool last week. Me, Markello, and Peter were on day 1, and then me and Peter on day 2. We had actually a lot of different people on different teams commenting, and we actually said Curtis Samuel. Time. We just guessed Curtis Samuel to Washington. We hit on that. Fitzpatrick to Washington. That was hysterical. And I know Markello, I mean, most Giants fans are calling for this, but Kenny Galladay, before it was like a reality, we're like the Giants are one team that makes a lot of sense. So that was pretty fun. Obviously, free agency is not going to change our mock draft 1.0 drastically. I think I can already think of top of my head, like Denver, they're not going to take a corner in round 1. So that's why we kind of didn't want to put a 2.0 out at first because you're just, way ahead. But now is the time to crank out those mock drafts, which we all love. So. But anyway, let's just hop into all of free agency. I'm going to pull up the tracker. We'll just go through like team by team.
Are we giving them a grade too?
Yeah. We don't have to be too harsh. I mean, this was just like an F, A to F. I don't really want to give any team an F because
it's going to be hard to get an F in free agency.
This is just strictly for free agency, so this doesn't count the upcoming draft. You can do that when it happens.
Second-tier players, I can give them like an F if I really wanted to.
We can just talk about like their overall haul. So we'll go up with the Cardinals first. Obviously, they got J.J. Watt before like the start of free agency. You can read here. A.J. Green was kind of surprising. Decent contract. Rodney Hudson is probably my favorite move they made, even though he's older, just to get Kyler Murray some offensive line.
I just thought it was crazy how the rumor was he was going to get released, and then the very next day it's like, oh wait, let's see if we could trade him and get something, and they get a 3rd-round pick.
Yeah, that was the one thing I didn't like. It was like, I mean, I get he might have had a market, but like I would have much preferred a day 3 pick, like round 4 or 5, what Seattle did with Gabe Jackson. But I do understand Hudson's a quality center, and he is a better center than Jackson is a guard. So I guess, like, I'm trying to justify it, but it should not have been a 3rd-round pick. But he is a good player who's going to help at the same time. So the Cardinals didn't have a lot of money either coming into free agency. That's also something to think about with like every team. Every team has different expectations based on their roster. Arizona was always a team that's going to focus on the draft. Obviously, they lost Patrick Peterson, but overall, I'm not like upset with their free agency. I would just give it like a C. Like, it's not bad. They definitely improved, but I also didn't like letting Hassan Reddick walk. I know that might be unpopular, but for the contract he got, what was it, 1 year, $8 million? I was like,
yeah,
could have gotten him back. Right. And he was 25, so I would have tried another year with him.
I think we have to be a little more generous in a C.
Well, I mean, I'm not considering like a letter grade. Like, I know C is a C, but like a C for me is like a medium free agency. Like, it's not bad, but it's not like fantastic. Like, they did get better.
I still think you bring in Rodney Hudson and J.J. Watt, regardless of who you also lost. You have to get a plus there.
Yeah, I'd agree. I would give him like a B.
So, want to give him a B? All right. You guys outvoted me.
They made some really good signings. Like, you know what I mean? AJ Green is, I feel like, one of those signings that everyone is overlooking. Like, who are you going to double at that point? You're going to double D Hop or you're going to double AJ Green?
No, I like AJ Green. I hope it works with Kyler Murray because he does throw tight window throws. But it's just like the question of, like, I would have preferred someone with speed down there. I know they have Christian Kirk, but, that would have been my preference. But hopefully he works out there. And I'm not upset with their free agency.
I mean, this gives, like, Kirk free reign in the slot now, which is a little bit better for him.
Yeah, and they're in a tough division, so we're going to see. And maybe AJ Green isn't done. Maybe it was just really one bad year with, shortened off season. And I mean, Burrow wasn't that great at the deep ball either. So there was other factors, maybe. But let's move on. The Falcons, pretty quiet free agency.
I don't think they had a lot of money to work with.
Yeah, they didn't. But so like they didn't do anything. They didn't lose anybody either, right? Drastically. Todd Gurley.
I actually like the Mike Davis signing.
The Mike Davis. I like Mike Davis too.
Yeah, so out of cheap money too. 2 years, 5.5.
Yeah, I think he's better than Todd Gurley was last year and Brian Hill. So
for sure.
I don't want to knock them for not having money. I don't want to give teams like a D grade just because they weren't able to do. We
can put them at C. That's what I was saying with some of these teams.
I'm fine with C. You did the best what you can, and hopefully they draft well.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not going to be able to keep Julio and Matt Ryan. One of them needs to get traded eventually, not right now, but
aren't they going to restructure? I'd figure they're going to restructure Matt Ryan.
I think they already did. They basically guaranteed his contract next year in 2022.
Oh, so yeah.
I don't know what that means for Julio, but I mean, we'll see what they do in the draft. That's when you're going to find out what's happening there.
Yeah, based on who they pick at 4.
I don't think there might be 1 or 2 teams, but I don't think we're going to give any teams really D's or F's. Because it does seem like
it's going to be very hard to do that.
Yeah. Okay, so the Baltimore Ravens, they obviously lost Yannick Ngakoue and Matthew Judon, their 2 pass rushers. And I will say, I like the Zeitler signing. It was clearly a need after Yonda retired. Their guard position was not very good last year, or center position. But I didn't really mind losing Yannick and Judon. I just wanted to maybe turn that money around and sign a wide receiver, which they didn't do.
Yep.
Yeah, I think this would be my team that gets the D. They missed out on like the most important position in wide receiver. Like there's what guys are left. They're fighting over Sammy Watkins with the Colts right now. So. And
I don't think Des Bryant said he's already not coming back. So who you running out with next year with Lamar?
Yeah.
It's going to be Willie Snead again. It's going to be Marquise Brown. Who's their number 3?
Well, Snead's actually
it's going to be reliable, not Boykin.
So they don't even have Snead at the moment. Yeah, I mean, Baltimore's a team that like they always focus on the draft. And granted, this is a free agency grade, not an offseason grade. So, but based on free agency, it's obviously underwhelming. But I will say most of Baltimore's free agencies aren't flashy, as we know. But I guess they're like when Lamar, like what the Giants did for Daniel Jones, I wanted the Ravens to get not as aggressive as that, but have some kind of plan to improve the wide receivers.
Even if they brought in like, let's say like an Aguilar, like the Patriots, it didn't have to be a big name, but you have to get somebody in the building.
Even like a Juju, if you could have taken Juju out of like Pittsburgh.
They almost did. Well, I'm not sure how close Juju came, but they were in on him obviously and offered him more.
And you have to assume first 2 rounds are going to go wide receiver, but again, we're not going to talk about draft, just strictly free agency. When you lose as much as you lost, and your best signing was obviously bringing in Zeitler.
And Zeitler, by the way, is starting to regress a little bit. So who knows like what Kevin Zeitler they're going to get.
That's a good point too. Although I think he'll work out in Baltimore for a year or 2. The Buffalo Bills. This is a team that I'm going to give at least an A or B to.
Yeah, no, they have to get an A.
Yeah, they definitely get an A.
Yeah, we can look at the contracts here. They have built a culture where they have guys willing to take under the actual market value contracts. Like they're still expensive, but you know, if they hit free agency, Matt Milano could have hit 12 or 13 per year. Same thing with Darren Williams, who's coming off a big year.
Let me ask you guys something real quick. Besides the obvious Matt Milano and Emmanuel Sanders, what's your favorite signing that they made?
So besides Milano,
the two obvious,
and
besides
Sanders,
Milano and Sanders,
it's not Trubisky, even though it's not a bad.
I actually think it's a good fit for Trubisky to be in Buffalo, backing up Josh Allen. And working with that coaching staff and Daboll.
Like Jacob Hollister was a good addition, but even who was their tight end last season? Knox.
Yeah,
he wasn't terrible.
I actually like McKenzie coming back too. He was like used last year, not a ton, but he was definitely in toward the end of the year, and he scored a couple touchdowns. So, but Emmanuel Sanders is by far like my favorite addition that they added. I think he's like one of the only ones they added outside the building.
The obvious ones.
Yeah, but he's a stud, and to lose John Brown and pick up Sanders, I think I like John Brown, but he was hurt last year. So what do you guys want to give them, an A or B?
I'm giving them an A.
I agree. With the money they had too, they actually got back everyone and added Sanders. So our next team is the Carolina Panthers. What are we thinking here? My bad.
Oh.
Me personally, I'm giving them at least a B. I love the signings that they made.
Yeah, they were aggressive early too in like the offensive line market in the first 2 days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very long list.
It's not going to be big names, but they're bringing in guys in the building, solidifying any kind of depth. So like if there's an injury, like you have people ready to step up on the offensive line. You brought in help for your offense. You know, they've been missing a tight end for a while now, and I'm not saying Dan Arnold's going to be the savior, but he'll be a complementary piece to the offense because obviously he's not going to be the 1, 2, or 3 option. You bring in David Moore, former Seahawk.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, my favorite one was the linebackers that they brought in the building, Hassan Reddick and Perryman. I think it's going to be a great duo for them in the middle of the field. And
Reddick got like no money.
Yeah, it was actually 1 year, 6. I thought it was 8. It's 6 with 8 like the max. So even better than we first said. Yeah, I agree. Carolina.
I'd give them an A. I think they hit like everything perfectly. They're like set up for the next guy to come in and like take over the quarterback position. They fixed the line.
If you want to give them an A, I'm not mad.
Yeah, I think I give them an A. They got good contracts on top of it too. It's not like they overpaid anyone.
No, that's true. I like the value they got. Some depth signings here. Bringing back Moton was big for me. Even Dan Arnold, he wasn't terrible last year, and their tight end position was non-existent. So maybe he'll work out. Carolina, I would give him B, but if you guys want to give him an A,
I'm fine with either. I said B originally because again, it's not like they brought in superstars, but they brought in a bunch of role players. So I'm thinking B, but I don't want to take credit away from them.
Yeah, whatever you guys want to do. If you
I'll vote B too.
We'll go with the consensus.
Because like I feel like A, you have to really like
kill it,
knock it out the park.
And it's not that they didn't. It's just like these are good moves, but I don't think they
They weren't superstars. Like they weren't bringing in names.
Yeah, and some teams don't have to though. Is the point? Like Carolina was a team like they have a good offense already. So, but it certainly was good. The Chicago Bears. I really did not like their free agency class. I really don't like the direction the team this is heading. This might be a D or an F, honestly, right off the bat.
It's just the Andy Dalton signing was big poo stain for me. I don't know about you guys. I think Andy Dalton's like washed.
I don't hate Dalton because like what's going on there. Like I didn't want to bring back Trubisky if I was the Bears. That was like plan F. But then again, I didn't want to give Dalton. It's only $10 million. I get what backup quarterbacks are paid, but right now he's going to start as of this moment. I don't think that's going to stay that way though. I do have a feeling there's a plan. But for free agency and as of March 24th, this is what we see in front of us. And, you know, even cutting Kyle Fuller.
That's probably the biggest, like,
it's like, why do we do all this? Like, we basically took Fuller's contract and gave it to Dalton. Like, it was basically a swap. And
at that point, don't even franchise tag Allen Robinson, let him hit the market because he's probably not going to play it for you anyway. And, you know, keep your defense together and then figure it out at quarterback.
And look, I don't want to be dramatic.
I will give them credit for keeping Robinson. Like he was, because we all know Pace and Nagy are on the hot seat. So from their point of view, keeping Robinson was a must. So that was like the only big, like they didn't have to keep him. The Lions didn't keep Galladay, but like for Pace's and Nagy's job, they needed to keep Robinson, or they're going to be fired, I think, anyway. But you know, without Robinson, they were surely going to be fired probably by week 8. So.
But it wasn't like they worked out a deal to keep Robinson. They just like told him like, hey man, you're not going anywhere. Like you're franchise tagged.
But he actually signed it now.
Well, yeah, no, he signed it, but what other option did he have? He's franchise tagged.
He
signed the tag and you sit and you don't get paid.
That's true, but he definitely could have dragged it out and made the situation worse.
Yeah, but I think he's figuring I'm just going to sign the tag and not play anyway. So
we'll see. For right now, I'm going to assume that he's playing as a Bear next year. So that's my only like saving grace here. Everything else, it's like good depth moves. I actually like Trufant as a, you know, flyer, but I'm not cutting Fuller and then adding Trufant and feeling like
that's what that point that was. They made the Trufant signing right after they cut Fuller, expecting him to be CB1.
Yeah, and I really like Jalen Johnson last year, their corner, but like I didn't want to throw him straight into cute like cornerback one spot because Trufant's coming off a terrible year in Detroit. So
look, my thing is I don't want to be dramatic and give them an F, but I feel like the whole point of free agency is to at least maintain, if not add, to your team. Mm-hmm. And I actually think just with free agency alone, this team got worse.
So it's either a C or D for me. Like I really don't want to give a team an F because.
All right, so then it has to be a D for me. I'm not giving this team a C.
I'm going with a D as well.
No disrespect to Allen Robinson because obviously he's the only bright spot.
Bro, I love Allen Robinson, but I'm telling you, I truly don't think he's going to play.
I know. No, he's the only reason why he signed is because he saw the wide receiver market.
Yeah.
If everybody was getting paid Kenny Galladay money, he would have demanded a long-term contract.
That was maybe the only smart thing the Bears did. I don't know if they were seriously interested in Galladay, but to bring him in for a visit, basically Robinson signed the next day to lock in his money. Not that he had to, but like they could have rescinded it. What happened with Josh Norman with Carolina a few years ago? That doesn't happen often. I'm just saying that Robinson was looking at the free agency market before the Galladay extension. He was like, oh, these guys are signing for way below the market value. And then he was like, all right, I'm going to lock in my money. So that was maybe the only good thing Chicago did. And they signed Damon Williams today. But that doesn't change my grade. But I do like him, adding him to the backfield at least. But let's move on. The Cincinnati Bengals, pretty active free agency. They're usually not a team that spends a ton of money. What do you guys think? I'll go first a little bit. I don't want to recap every move. I like the Mike Hilton signing, even Uwuzie as depth, and Trey Henderson. But like, I didn't want to give up William Jackson and Carl Lawson, and I feel like they got cheap because they didn't guarantee Carl Lawson a certain amount of money, which then my Jets jumped in and got him for basically around the same exact average per year value. But like the Bengals added, like I really like Riley Reif, I think, for right tackle. That we needed. Obviously went into the free agency saying Bengals and the draft, we have to get offensive line for Burrow. I don't feel like they did that much, but obviously there wasn't a ton in free agency. We know that. So like we have to be fair there. So I feel like the Bengals got better, but they also took away from their team. You guys know what I'm saying? It's like we got better, but like I feel like losing William Jackson, Carl Lawson hurt as well. Like you might have got deeper, but I don't know if you got like they definitely got better. It just I don't know how much better.
Like it would have been better if they made all the signings they did, the Riley Reef, Eli Apple, Mike Hilton, right? If they got those guys while keeping, even if they lost William Jackson, if they couldn't afford him to, just to bring back Carl Lawson, because you gave Trey Hendrickson the same amount of money. You might as well just get the better player with that. Somebody who's already been there.
Yeah.
And produced for you. So
and he wanted to come back. I seen a few days before free agency, like people thought he was going back to the Bengals. So that was kind of a surprise.
I don't think this is a whiff like the Bears, because they did make some good signings. Mm-hmm. It could have been better, and obviously you lost two good pieces. I'm fine with ranking them a C because it wasn't a horrible thing. It was just Trey Hendrickson, a lot of money, and you lost people you probably didn't want to lose.
What about you, Markello?
So, yeah, like I just don't understand the whole Trey Hendrickson thing. Like, why? What was the point of bringing him in if Carl Lawson got like the same exact deal? That's like the whole thing.
I guess people would argue that Trey had the numbers last year.
Yeah, I guess, but
I'm just playing devil's advocate here. But I know you guys. I was a bigger Carl Lawson fan too. But hopefully Trey works out, because if he can do equal or maybe just below, it's still not bad, because we need Trey Hendrickson to maybe get 8 to 9 sacks, maybe not 13, whatever he got this year. He needs to produce with that kind of money. So yeah, the Bengals are a C, but I don't think, like we said, it's just how much better did they get with the people they lost. But the Bengals, they're a team that's probably going to excite me during the draft. I'm curious to see what they do.
Well, we know they're going offensive line with the 5th pick.
Well, if Jamar Chase falls, I don't know, or Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, I don't know.
Think so?
I think Kyle Pitts might be at number 5.
Well, look, the hole's there now. They let AJ Green walk.
I get that, but like they signed Riley Reef, so that's your tackle spot. Who's the other? Was it Taylor Decker?
No, Jonah Williams.
Jonah Williams, yeah, Jonah Williams. So you have your 2 tackles.
Just pick one of them inside a guard.
I guess, but you have.
Let me ask you something. The Bengals are picking at 5, right? Let's say Sewell's not there, right? Are you going Chase or are you going Slater?
I'm going Kyle
Pitts. Or Pitts, yeah.
I'm going Kyle Pitts. Even if Sewell's on the board, I'm going Kyle Pitts from the Bengals. You need to give Joe Burrow like a target.
Okay,
that's bold.
I mean, look, they're rolling out with who now? They're rolling out with Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins.
Yeah.
And
Mixon's still in the backfield as of now.
Yeah, whatever, that's Mixon. Really, but I'm talking like receivers, like tight end and receivers. Who are they rolling with?
I guess Auden Tate. I like him.
Yeah, like you don't have much there. So
they haven't had a good tight end since that one freakish year from Eifert.
Dude, and then you have Kyle Pitts that's running 4.4 940s.
They have options. They definitely have options.
Yeah, if they did do that, because I would love Pitts for that offense. They would definitely have to take offensive line around 2 no matter what. Like it would have to be locked in for me that they're either getting a guard or center, which is possible because a lot
of guards and centers that are going to fall into round 2.
Yeah, and they are going to be there for them. Like whether it's Creed Humphrey, Wyatt Davis, the guy from Georgia. So like they'll have a few options.
Yeah, Landon Dickerson's going to be there. There's going to be a lot of guys. So
if you guys are Cincinnati,
they have the option to go out there and get like this crazy kid from Florida.
If you guys are Cincinnati, would you consider trading down to like 8 to Carolina to let them move up and take a QB?
Yes, I would.
You still end up with the receiving option or Slater?
I would.
I think Miami is probably going to move out with some team that's going to draft a quarterback up there.
Well, Mel Kiper's most recent mock draft, he had 4 QB. He had Miami trading with Carolina, and the first 4 picks were all QBs.
That's what I did as well. So I didn't mind the last one I sent to you guys.
I can't mock that because it's just, when was the last time we've seen that happen?
Never. I don't think it's gonna happen again this year. Like I know why it makes sense too for Miami, but I do think the Bengals are. I think out of the top 10 teams, the Bengals and Broncos are the most likely to trade down. But let's move on. The Cleveland Browns, we actually talked about a little bit because I think they got John Johnson on day 1 or 2. So I think we were praising Andrew Berry, and I think this is an A for me for the Browns again this offseason or this free agency. Like John Johnson, I think is a great get for their secondary.
Anthony Walker too.
Troy Hill, really good in the slot. They definitely needed that. Rashad Higgins, absolute steal coming back. I thought he was
Jackson was a great signing.
I thought he was their best wide receiver last year because Odell got hurt early on, and I do think he was more valuable than Jarvis. So, and even Anthony Walker. I know he's a little bit down year last year with the Colts, but they definitely needed linebacker help.
But look, they took those
good
were the
value,
flyer
so.
signings, Walker and McKinley. Those are
Yeah.
guys you give 1 year deals to, and if they don't, hit what they were projected to be,
Mhm.
right? And you cut ties. You have no ties to them.
Yeah, and Malik Jackson's decent D-line depth. So they're an A for me. Really liked what the
Yeah.
Browns. I like their plan. I like what they've been doing the last two off seasons. So
I'm with you.
Yeah, I agree.
who would have thought? The Browns are like.
Hopefully the
If
Jets
anyone
can
would
make
have
that
told you a
kind of
couple years
turnaround.
ago, at grading for agency, that the Bills and Browns would be A's, they would think you're nuts. So I don't want to hear
That's why
about.
the NFL is
I don't want to
great.
hear about teams that are bad that they can't get better under, a new regime. The Dallas
That's why I love the
Cowboys
NFL.
finally got Dak Prescott. It was like every single day leading up to free agency for the last 2 years, all we heard about was, is Dak getting extended? Is he getting tagged? So I'm glad it's finally over. And my favorite signing for them was Keanu Neal. Obviously, I wanted him for the Jets, but I really like that. They're also planning to play him at linebacker. So the Cowboys obviously weren't very active because they focused on getting Dak back. But
I think just for that, you have to give them a B.
yeah,
This has been hanging over their heads. And look, at the end of the day, Cowboys fans should be be happy that you still have Dak and he's your franchise now. But this should have been done 2 years ago, and you would have saved a shit ton of money.
Yep. Because now, I hate to say it, but they're not going to win a Super Bowl with Dak Prescott there, especially with Ezekiel Elliott's contract. It's just going to be a mess.
I don't think so either. Like, I know the AFC is better than the NFC, like overall as a conference, but it's just that the NFC is very top heavy, and the Cowboys are not better than the top heavy teams.
Dude, the Cowboys arguably are, could be like the third or fourth team in the division.
I will say, let's see. Let's wait for the draft.
They're better than the Eagles.
Yeah, the Eagles are definitely going to finish last, but let's wait for the draft, because if Dallas, and I hope this is their plan, right? Other than maybe one or two positions, I kind of want them to do what Carolina did last draft, where they took kind of all defense, because the Dallas Cowboys have the offense basically to go up against anybody, any team in the league. Like, I don't care what defense they're playing, but as we know, their defense has been the backbone. They have a ton of names back there in Dallas, but the defense just has not performed. But yeah, just for the Dak Prescott, I like adding Neal. Bringing back Lewis, I didn't really understand this. A lot of Cowboys fans did not like him. Apparently, he was a liability in the slot.
It's cheap, though. It's really cheap.
It might be just for depth if they plan on taking a corner at 10.
I'll go ahead, my bad.
I was just going to say that signing, that's not them saying, you're our guy. It's more of like, you'll be behind whoever we draft at 10. I think they're going to corner with the first round. And if not corner, then yeah.
Agreed.
So if not corner, it has to be edge help.
And that's what I'm saying. If their secondary and the pass rush kind of goes hand to hand, like if Diggs takes a big step, year two, and they got a corner at 10, probably Surtain after his pro day yesterday, him or Horn. Like,
yeah, I think Farley's falling out because of injury concern, right?
I think Farley would still go round 1, but I think he's out of the top 20.
That's a shame. Yeah, it's a shame. Yeah, he only has like bad back issues or something.
He'll be ready by training camp, but like he suffered an ACL injury 3 years ago, which I'm not really worried about, because like he played for 2 years after that and was still really explosive. But I guess when you suffer an injury before, your pro day, right before the draft, typically you fall. And
it would be different if he was freakish, but the top 3 corners are so close to each other.
They all are freakish, which is weird, because like
I'm talking about like a teardrop is a better way to put it. If there was a teardrop between them, I think they're all top tier corners, the top 3 guys. So if you have JC Horn and Farley on the board, you're like, okay, let me just go JC Horn. It's not that much of a fall off, if any at all, and you get the health. And
so let's move on. The Denver Broncos, another A. This might have been my favorite free agency class out of all of them. Just a team that's really, I feel like we say this with the Chargers a lot too, but Denver's a roster that's really well put together. The only question mark we have is the quarterback situation. But Denver's roster, like the secondary, Fangio, Kyle Fuller, and Darby, big upgrades from last year in the secondary. Bringing back Shelby Harris, who's been good for them the last couple of years. And just
Jackson.
Yeah, and they actually, I know they franchise tag Simmons, but they actually got him on a long-term deal. So we have him signed long-term. So they're an A for me.
What I loved about what they did is everybody pre-free agency was like, okay, they're going to need to go corner in the first round because that's just a glaring hole. So what they did is not just cornerback, but bringing back the safeties. They bolstered their secondary as a whole, So now they could address anything else that they want to in the first round, or even trade down, like you said, Ryan, before. They just opened up like 3 more doors by addressing what they needed to address in the secondary. And the way John Elway has always built his defenses, in terms of drafting, is really, you had Von Miller, you had a great front seven, of course, but your secondary was always locked down.
Mm-hmm.
So you're building it how you've always built it. The problem with John Elway, drafting, is he misses on quarterbacks. So he'll give Drew Lock 1 more year. This is his prove-it year with all the weapons he has at full health with the defense. And Denver will be drafting a quarterback next year if Drew Lock can't prove himself.
Yeah, I still think they'll add some kind of veteran. Maybe it's Darnold or Minshew. I just think they'll do something to bring in at least decent competition behind Lock. But I will say, because I know Elway's been good the last – I can even admit his drafts have been good, but it's not him anymore, even this free agency. It's Patton from the Vikings. He was someone who's like really highly regarded. And I remember when the Jets hired Douglas, he was like a finalist, and a lot of people had good things to say about him. And this is his first free agency class, and it's a home run. So I'm curious to see what he does in the draft. I do think he will trade down. Like, he seems like a value guy too. So, and Denver don't have a lot of holes on the roster. They really don't. Like, it's a deep roster. Just trying to figure out the quarterback situation.
Who do you think would be trading up to pick 9? What kind of team?
A team that might need a corner, or if one of the third wide receivers falls, it's possible.
When someone's crazy enough to go up to 9 for Mac Jones.
Yeah. A quarterback needy team, San Fran, even if it's only a couple spots, Patriots, if they're looking.
Well, yeah, because it can't be too drastic. You're not going to see a team in the 20s trading up to 9. That would be, well, it's possible, but
yeah, it's
happened. Like Washington football team, but
we've seen 20 to 10 before. Denver and
yeah,
Steelers.
I know.
So
well, we've seen it in the 2017 draft when Watson and Mahomes got drafted. Kansas City trading up and Houston trading, right? So
we're in agreement with Denver. All A's.
Run.
I'm happy with our A tier right now.
The Detroit Lions, obviously, we went in with like they're going to be first, second overall in 2022. We know that. Oh, sorry, my computer's so annoying. It has like a spam. So the Detroit Lions, obviously, completely rebuilding the roster, brand new coach. So expectations weren't relatively high. I still don't like letting Galladay walk, even though it's probably the best bet for his career outlook. But to let him walk for nothing, I did like bringing back Romeo. I like Jamal Williams as a signing, but they definitely lost a lot of talent, even though some of these guys are overpriced veterans. So I would probably give them a D or C, because like expectation was they weren't going to be very active.
Definitely not enough. You can't fault them.
No, yeah,
it's a known rebuild. It's not like the Bears where you're trying to get better and you still lose everybody. Like, everybody knew what Detroit was, and
this is a huge list of like acquisitions. Like, this is crazy. So I didn't even realize they were this active, even though a lot of these are cuts.
I'm fine. Honestly, I don't even want to give them a D, because this is what a rebuilding offseason looks like, right? So you're not going to see big names. You're not going to see long, big contracts besides Del Claro, because you need pass rushers. But I'm perfectly fine with a C. This is exactly what a rebuilding free agency class looks like.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
You can't fault them.
Did you like Brockers for 2023-7 is probably their best move in terms of value?
That was dirt. That was really dirt. It was funny too. Brockers was saying how like getting Stafford was such an upgrade over Goff, and then he got traded like 2 weeks later.
Funny. 2 weeks later,
he said he texted Jared Goff too and apologized and said it was just like a fan booster kind of statement.
I was just joking. Yeah, now I'm on the line. So
I was just joking, bro. But now we're in Motown together and we're fucked.
Okay, the Green Bay Packers. This might be a D for me.
Did you guys understand the Kevin King thing? I think,
no, but I knew this was coming. I follow a couple of Packers fans, and they just weren't, and they never really are active in free agency outside of that 1 year they got Za'Darius and Preston. Most of the free agency they sit out. And I really like Aaron Jones. I'm happy he's back there, but it just makes, like we said at the time, like signing him back, it's like you took a second round running back. I would rather sign back Jamal Williams. Like, you see what his contract was, right? Obviously, he's not the player Aaron Jones is.
And you wouldn't have given him a 1 year deal. It would have been like a 2 to 3 year.
I could have got Corey Linsley and Jamal Williams for the price of Aaron Jones, I think. Because the Packers, you could structure contracts differently. I would prefer that route. And signing Kevin King, who, granted, I know probably his season got blown out of proportion last year, because the way we remember him is him getting beat in the championship game. But He just hasn't been very good there in
Dude,
general.
but yeah, he gets beat on like a lot of his like whenever he's in coverage, he gets beat. He's not like great, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and having Alexander on one side, he's obviously gonna get targeted by far, the most out of anybody on the team. But it just and we'll see what they do in the draft. But I just didn't really want to bring him back if I was the Packers. I would prefer trying something else.
There's so much depth in the market that you didn't even have to.
They definitely could have waited this out.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like no one was gonna run and give Kevin King more than $6 million a year anyway. So
I would rather give that to Malcolm Butler or AJ Boye, try something out.
Yeah, something. Just try something because he's not working.
But yeah, I'm just gonna give him a D, I think.
They could have went after like Sherman. Sherman could have came this is a perfect situation for him.
They could have done anything besides what they did. We say it every year. It's always something with them, dude. And this is why Rodgers recently is getting frustrated. Have you guys seen the reports that he wants?
Well, yeah, he wants to know that they're going to commit to him past this year. Yep. And I don't blame him because if I was him, I'd get the hell out of there.
That's another thing now that's going on. We heard a little bit.
The thing is, he wants to stay. It's just they keep making decisions in drafts and free agency that don't show that.
Bro, send him to the 49ers. It should have happened, years ago when he got drafted.
I think it'll happen next year. I've already been on the record saying I think after this season, he'll be a 49er.
So the Houston Texans, I think they've had 50 transactions. Just crazy.
Look,
it's a lot of depth. Another rebuilding team.
I'm going to let you guys know, though, it's a C or a D for me just because, the caliber of players they signed weren't
I don't think it's a D. I think it's
it wasn't even the caliber of players that, the Panthers went out and signed where they were, obviously role-playing guys and, you weren't going out for the superstars. These guys are just bad.
No, there's a couple. This is better than Detroit, in my opinion, in some of the.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. But still, this is a D for me. I think we were just being nice to Detroit. But
I think that's harsh.
Yeah, no, Texans.
Because I actually I like the bringing in because I don't think Deshaun Watson's going to play with everything going on right now. I don't think he's going to play football next year. Desmond, I think everybody, even Hargraves, their secondary, they bring back Hargraves. I think their corners, they did good for a rebuilding, team to bring in the corners that they have. They have Tyrod Taylor, who I think is, he could still start in the league. You don't expect him to win 7 games, but I don't know. I think it's a C.
Yeah, I'm with you. I
don't know. I think the only 2 signings I liked were the Desmond King, and we can't even factor in trades here.
Oh, you can. It's free agency. We class.
No, dude. I think this is. I think they're on the same thing with Detroit, where this is what a rebuilding free agency looks like, and I think they did a good job of bringing in a lot of 1-year deals.
Yeah, they brought in a lot of guys who are culture guys, trying to turn around their reputation. Yeah. And now with everything that's going on with Watson, he's not.
And they kicked that off with Mark Ingram.
Maybe ever again. I don't know if I would have signed 3 running backs or kept David Johnson, Lindsey, and Mark Ingram, but it is what it is. One of them won't
be there by the end of the year.
Yeah, one of them probably be cut in training camp, but yeah, I give them a C, probably a C+. I do like what they did better than Detroit, but those are 2 teams that are obviously tied to completely rebuilding, stripping it all down. So it was just kind of wild. You're going through this list and it's so many names, whether cuts and trades and signings. So the Indianapolis Colts, I feel like they do this every single year, but they're not very active during free agency at all. I like bringing back Rhodes back. I think they're on the verge of bringing back T.Y. Hilton. That's not confirmed or anything, but I think they're trying to do that. So that would help. Marlon Mack, I guess I understand, but where's the role for him?
That's crazy that you just said it. Colts are giving T.Y. Hilton a 1-year, $10 million deal.
That's hysterical. Literally right now.
$8 million guaranteed. So add it to the list. I think this is honestly, I don't know if you guys are going to agree with me. I think this is a B for the Colts. I think.
Well, look,
they obviously you could have spent money and upgraded at certain positions.
Is it a B?
You could have.
Or D?
B.
Oh no, I'm giving him a C. I don't even like Carson Wentz.
I won't argue.
That's the thing. The whole Carson Wentz thing kind of restricted them in free agency because they had to take into account his massive contract now.
Given the market for quarterbacks and Philip Rivers retiring, I don't know who would have been a better alternative to Carson Wentz if you're the Colts besides Stafford.
Ryan Fitzpatrick instantly.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would sign him for a 1 year and then figure it out next year type deal when more quarterbacks hit the market.
The Colts wouldn't have never done that, but I agree. Instead of giving up 2 seconds for Carson Wentz just coming off a horrendous year, I would have given it to Fitzpatrick.
With a nasty.
That's fine. I won't argue with you. I think it was smart for them to be patient and slow this specific free agency and save their cap room and money.
Peter, you could be right. If Wentz works out,
biggest
it's going to be a B or an A. They won't care about this offseason.
Not just that, not just Wentz, but next year you have the Colts built this whole roster based around their offensive line. Yeah. And your two best offensive linemen need to get extended at the end of the season. So instead of spending your money on the Judons and the Ngakwe's and all these people, you save your money to keep your core and your core roster all together. Darius Leonard's coming up, Quentin Nelson, their young tackles coming up. So obviously they had the money to do things, but Ballard's being smart, and he's saving it for the players that actually matter next year, because he's not going to be like the teams like Cincinnati and all these people who let their core guys go. You draft guys and you let them go after 5 years. Ballard's going to keep the crew together. And me personally, I liked what they did. You brought back your team.
Mm-hmm.
You added Carson Wentz, which again, you guys think Fitzpatrick a better option. I'd rather risk it with Wentz. I think if you're the Colts, it's better off to risk it. You're still a playoff team. I'd risk it and see if Wentz could be what he was his MVP year or not. You bring him back with Frank Reich. I don't know. I think it was a good risk for them. Obviously, I'd rather Stafford, but to each their own. I would have given him a B. If you guys want to give him a C, that's fine. Me personally, I'm a B.
I give him a C just because the Carson Wentz acquisition did fill a hole, but it did restrict them in a bigger kind of way, because now they have to think about that contract being on the books.
You guys are swaying me. So my initial reaction was definitely a C or D. But Peter, you kind of talked me into keeping their own, which is and I feel like that's what teams should be doing for the most part.
Because we're not thinking about it. Besides, they're going to be able to keep back their core after this year when they extend everybody, and then they can make, that star wide receiver acquisition next year in free agency. They'll be able, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that star pass rusher, they'll still have the money to do that as well.
You know what? You swayed me. You don't have to talk anymore. You sold me. I'll give him a B. But I will say that I'm really, really hesitant on Carson Wentz. That's the thing that's holding me back. Yes, signing guys long-term, Darius Leonard, obviously. They got Buckner there, the offensive lineman. Quentin Nelson's going to be the highest paid guard. That all makes sense. But when you're paying Wentz that much money, and if he doesn't even – say he gets better, right? But he's not MVP level, and you're paying him whatever it is that you're paying him. If he's the 20th best quarterback in the league, I don't know. But we're gonna go with the hope that he's good and he gets back to his MVP kind of ways. That's surprising. Coming into this video, I had no plans on giving the Colts a B. So good on you, Peter.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Jacksonville Jaguars. Decent amount of moves here. The only move that I did
signing.
What happened?
I said I like the Shaquille Griffin signing.
My favorite signing for them was Marvin Jones.
Yep.
Really cheap deal, and someone who I like Trevor Lawrence, in my opinion, likes those type of receivers, the big bodies. Marvin Jones is an excellent route runner. Just a really steady wide receiver, consistent. I know he's a little bit older, but I really like that. Shaquille Griffin, I liked. I would rather them go get William Jackson, but Griffin's much younger, and I like the pairing. I like the idea of that with him and Henderson back there. My only thing that I didn't like was franchise tagging Cam Robinson. I know there might not be a lot of options in free agency. He's not worth half of that. So
yeah, that's the problem when you tag a player like that. He's not going to play up to that contract. So you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot there. But
then again, they might have an idea of what they want to do in the draft, or maybe they don't want to take a tackle in round one. Maybe they want a specific player because they have 2 first-round picks. So after they get Lawrence, maybe they want to take a safety or, another defensive player, or maybe an offensive not really.
I think it makes sense.
But, I'd give them a B. I think they definitely got better. And they actually surprised me because usually them and the Jets, just historically speaking, the last couple of years, different regimes, of course, so I don't want to compare that, but Jaguars and the Jets have been the flashy teams, and outside of Griffin, there wasn't any crazy contracts, and this isn't even that bad, but a lot of these are cheap signings and solid depth / starters for a while.
So if you're not a Saints fan, you're not really going to understand the significance of it, but my favorite move they did was the 7th round pick for Malcolm Brown. Super underrated defensive tackle, phenomenal in the run game. He's just all around, he's just underrated. And I guess you could make the argument, it was just a stout defensive line in general. So with the pressure you get off the edge or even in the interior from the other defensive tackles, just everybody was good on that line, just doing their part. But to bring him in for essentially free, right? You're a rebuilding team. You had the need on defense. Just you bolster up the middle of, your line. I think that was a really underrated signing that I loved. I think they did good by Trevor Lawrence because we know that he's going to be the pick. I think considering they are the Jacksonville Jaguars, the mades they made specifically on defense, I'd give it a B too. I think they did good.
They really invested on the defensive line. Just looking at it, this guy from the Bears. Apparently, I didn't really know him before, but this might have been a little bit of an overpay. But he was actually pretty good last year. Looking into it, and Bears fans are pretty upset that he left. And then even like you said, Malcolm Brown for a 7th round pick is a steal. Even if he's just a run stuffer, and looking at this defensive line class right in the draft, it's not very good. So I'm glad that they addressed it here. It was definitely a major need. And even Tyson Alulu, he's older now. He actually was drafted, obviously, by Jacksonville. But the last couple of years he's been with Pittsburgh. He's been really good. So, yeah, I give him a very solid B.
Yep, for sure. Yeah.
Who is next? The Kansas City Chiefs. Probably the most surprising, I would say.
Yeah.
Well, look, they made huge splash for Joe Thuney.
Yeah. Excellent
even
signing.
The Kyle Long signing was like I understand he's
that came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I understand he's been out of the league or whatever, but that's another great signing. They basically hit what their problem was, the offensive line.
Yeah, we still have concerns about their tackles, but they still have a draft. But yeah, for a team that wasn't expected to sign really any players, and it's funny because they've actually missed out on a few. You would think who wouldn't want to play for Kansas City, but Juju Smith turned them down. Reynolds turned them down. He ended up signing with Titans.
Trent Williams was just about to sign with them, and then Shanahan got the deal done.
Really close. So, but that's not going to change my overall. I would give them probably a B, maybe a C plus, even though we don't have that. That's what I'm thinking. Very good. I'm glad Joe Thuney, maybe the number 1 free agent, top 5 free agents, and got an area of need. And I like Kyle Long. Came out of nowhere, came out of retirement after 1 year, for a pretty good contract. So, and even signing back Mike Remmers, who got hurt last year, but when he came in and started for Schwartz, who they cut, he was definitely a drop off, but he wasn't bad. He was pretty solid. He's been, he has a lot of career starts, and the Chiefs, I give him a B. I think solid B.
I'm with you on the B. See, my thing is where I stand on it is, it's really not their fault that, they did the best with what they could do. So the tackles, Eric Fisher getting hurt, it wasn't in their control, obviously. So they did what any other team would have had to do. If you have your offensive lineman tearing their Achilles, in the championship game, whatever it was that he did it, you have to cut him because he's not going to be ready the whole year. He takes up money. And then they even went ahead and restructured everybody's deal, Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Kelsey, to make money fit to get somebody like Joe Thuney in the building and Kyle Long
did a restructure, right?
Back. I thought he did.
Cool.
Did he? No, Tyreek Hill, I don't think he did restructure.
It might not have been Tyreek Hill. It was Mahomes, Kelsey, and somebody. It might have been Hill. It was 3 people, I think.
I thought it was Hill. I could be wrong though.
No, I'm pretty sure the thing came out a couple days ago that he denied the restructure. Once I signed my contract, it's signed, type deal.
I don't know. Point being that they went to their guys, they restructured to get more guys in the building. So it's not obviously front office's fault that you lost both your starting tackles. It's just the way the NFL works.
Mm-hmm. And
obviously bringing in the best guard in the league, you did something as bad, and they're going to address tackle in the draft. But for free agency's purpose, a B is good for me.
Yeah, and this offensive line right now is already looking better than it did last year because they had a bunch of injuries last year. Adding these guys, bringing back who was the guy who opted out? Remember Laramie something? He was really cool. Yeah, really cool story. The guy who started in the Super Bowl. He was actually pretty good. They missed him last year, so they had that guy coming back. These 2 signings, and then I would bet they take a tackle at 31. Probably a pretty safe bet. So as long as they do that. For a team that needed basically an entire offensive line or 3 or 4 out of the 5, I think they really did well. So B for me. Okay, this next team is a team that we ripped on during the live stream. This might be the F team, D or F. Well, let's not say that, but Yannick, I really liked. Let's start with the positives. Actually, even getting Hudson, who I didn't want to trade, but the fact they were going to cut him, they end up getting a third is a win for me, even though it does not help them this year, like with depth and for Derek Carr. You know, I just didn't want to give up all our offensive linemen. You know, how many years did they spend proud down there having a great offensive line? It was like every year you can go in with that, like, all right, our defense might not be that good, but, you know, we have good protection for Derek Carr. We're going to be able to run the ball with Josh Jacobs. And I feel like we lost that here. So it wasn't a terrible free agency. Like, I hated the Kenyon Drake contract, guaranteed basically the entire thing. And I like Kenyon Drake. It's just, why are we doing this when we have Josh Jacobs and even Richard? It just didn't make sense to me. You know, even Nick Martin's not bad, but like, I don't want to sign Nick Martin and trade Hudson. So like, you know, I feel like they countered a lot of the moves that they actually, the guys they got rid of just didn't, and the guys they brought in didn't equal up to me. But I did like bringing back Morimo. He was a good linebacker last year. So I'm trying to stay positive with them, but outside of Yannick, I just did not really like their free agency class.
I hated the fact that they lost Aguilar.
That's another one. Didn't even mention him. Someone who Derek Carr was really good with last year. Had a good connection. I know he got overpaid, but I feel like you could have got that done before free agency.
You didn't even really get like that overpaid, did he? What do you make? Like
211
a year.
It was actually 11 per year, like when they came out with the kills. But
is that really that bad?
Why didn't they sign him back during the season when he started hit lightning with the you know, a guy who literally took the vet minimum last year to play with the Raiders? I feel like you could have got him for 6 or 7 during the year when he was hot with Carr before he even tested free agency. But I have major questions, as you know, for Gruden and Mayock. I don't feel like they should finish out their contracts, the 10 years, whatever it is. But I don't know what's going to happen. But I did like bringing in John Brown. We didn't even mention him. I like that. It's a pretty decent signing. But overall, like, I feel like the Raiders got worse.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Well, when you get rid of your whole offensive line in one offseason, like, it's not like the Kansas City thing where like your hands are tied and you just lost your tackles. Like, besides Trent Brown, because he demanded a trade, like, you didn't have to make the decisions you made and get rid of the whole offensive. Like, I've been defending Gruden for so long, and even Mayock to an extent, not drafting wise, but whatever. Like, it's been 4 years of Gruden now?
Yeah, I believe he just finished his 4th year.
So you went in knowing you had to rebuild when you made the Khalil Mack trade and all that, right? And you're 4 years in and you're starting to rebuid again.
Yeah,
essentially.
You are.
So I don't know what the plan is. Like, when they sit down, right? When they fire the whole scouting team, right? The day of the draft, and it's just Gruden and Mayock in the war room. It's like, all right, Mike. All right, John. You know, what's the plan? What are we working towards? What are we doing? Are we just here for fun? Because I think they just have a blast. I think they're having a great time. They love football. They love their lives, right? It's essentially giving 2 kids the authority to run an NFL football team. They're just having a blast. They're living in Candyland. And again, Yannick they got for a good deal. That's a cheap deal for a pass rusher. So I don't want to give them an F. But
they did
Marcus Joyner, who's now,
you could give them a D on the verge of going F.
They did bring back Richie Incognito. I know they said cut here, but they ended up signing him back. So I mean, that he's older though now too. He's also like 36, 37. So you're holding on hope that he stays healthy the entire season.
Like, are we really going to sit here and say, okay, the Raiders are going to win more games this year than they did last year?
No. And the division they're in is so tough to begin with. Like, I feel like Denver got better
this year.
Denver got better.
All of them did.
The Chargers are always a good team. I think they got better.
They got better this year. Yeah, so this is a D for me. I'm losing vision. I saw the vision when they traded Khalil Mack. I'm like, okay, I would have done the same thing. Like, you just started a rebuild. You're not going to pay this guy, $20 million, whatever it was, like 2 first-round picks. Like, it was great. And then they wasted every year's draft pick in every round, essentially. And I don't know. And the Joyner thing, why would they move him to nickel corner, see he wasn't good, get rid of him? Just leave him at safety where he excelled.
Yeah, I really don't. The Raiders are a team that they find ways to create more holes for themselves. Like, we don't know what's going on defense for 4 years, right? Like, I like Yannick, but we had the offensive line. I understand Trent Brown, right? Because he's dealt with injuries there, and it just seemed like even he got overpaid. But when he's not playing on the field, just get rid of him. I understand that. It's unfortunate, it didn't work out, but everything else, it's like. And Rodney Hudson apparently asked to be out after his one of his good friends was Gabe Jackson, so he did not like the plan. So tells me something's going on behind
There
the
is no
scenes.
plan.
And before we move on, what did you guys think of the report that their owner is apparently like cap strapped, like he doesn't have a lot of money, and that's why they have to get rid of some of these guys, and that's why they couldn't pay Khalil Mack, and now it's coming up again when guys are getting paid.
But that doesn't excuse. But it doesn't it's still you're still an NFL owner. Like if you're able to dish out, you're an NFL owner. You're paying guys millions of dollars. It doesn't give you an excuse to miss on draft, because doesn't that incentivize you to hit on your draft picks so you can lock up good players?
Yeah,
without needing free agency, and you're taking Clelin Ferrell at pick 4 when you could have gotten him at pick 20.
Yeah,
and you have Devin White on the board. There's just, I don't know.
With all that being said, what team has had more picks than the Raiders the last 3 years?
Yeah, because they traded everybody that was good, of decent talent, for picks just to waste them. You take a nickel corner in the first round who was projected to go round 3.
That was the craziest one they did, honestly, in my opinion. The Damon Arnold one was crazy.
Damon Arnold.
Come on. He was supposed to go round 3. It was a nickel corner.
And he didn't even play last year, I don't think. Like, he started and then he got hurt. So just even worse.
You take a safety round 1, he's always hurt. And like Ryan said, I think you addressed in the live stream, he's just a big hitter, right?
Yeah, you can't even cover. And this is like, we're playing pass defense in the NFL like now. Like every quarterback now, everything's a spread, everything's over the middle. You have to be able to cover. Like, it's not just about hitting. Like the thumper role is kind of extinct now with how the NFL rules are. Like, yes, I want my safety to hit hard, but like,
I don't know how bold of a statement this is going to be, but I do think Houston and Detroit will be rebuilt before Las Vegas is.
I don't know about Houston.
Well, because Vegas don't go all in for the rebuild. Like they say they're going to rebuild. Their like moves indicate they're going to, and then they kind of like half-ass it. We're like, okay, we'll keep Derek Carr because he's decent, but we're going to release his entire offensive line, get rid of his best friend Aguilar, and we're going to hope Henry Ruggs takes the next step. But don't worry, we have Darren Waller. He's going to score a bunch of touchdowns, which he will, but the team's not going to be very good.
And now you're going to take away from a star running back Josh Jacobs and give the ball to Kenyon Drake.
Yeah. But let's move on from the Raiders. Kind of
much time on the Raiders.
It's just like upsetting when this stuff happens to some franchises where like you want to believe in the plan. Like I also like Gruden.
And that's such a good fan base. You want to see them do good.
Their fan base is very cool. And obviously they dealt with moving all the way to Vegas. So just not a great offseason so far. Hopefully their draft hopefully this is the one now. After a couple of years, they finally get it together and draft well. Let's go to their division rivals, the Chargers. A team that definitely focused on offensive line for Herbert. Them and the Chiefs did the opposite of what the Raiders did. Probably one of my favorite signings was Corey Lindsey.
Yeah, I love the Corey Lindsey signing, but you lose Hunter Henry is like, I don't know, that's giving me bad vibes for the Chargers. Like,
I would have franchise tagged him again, but I don't really hate losing him. Like, I know he's a good player. He has been hurt quite a lot, during his time there. I'm not saying that's the reason to get rid of him, but it is fair to say that he hasn't played every single game.
Yeah.
I don't think Herbert really loved him either. Just watching a bunch of Chargers games, like he was good with him, but clearly Herbert's guy was Austin Eckler and Keenan Allen. So like, I feel like the Chargers, it wasn't a must keep for me. I would have been nice because of age and everything to then give Herbert another option, but like Jared Cook for 1 year plus whatever they add in the draft, I don't really like. It was more important to me that they addressed offensive line and they took flyers here. Lindsey, slam dunk, a little bit expensive, but a signing, definitely needed it. I like bringing back Davis, and Ibushi actually had a good year last year in Detroit, which is funny to say. For 1 year, $2 million as a spot starter. Maybe he starts this entire year. I'm not sure what they're going to do in the draft, but I give them a really solid B.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I was leaning towards the C, but if you guys want to go B just because of the offensive line, I would get it.
Yeah, I mean, I just think Hunter Henry. It makes sense. Like, that is a loss, no doubt. That's why you can't give him an A. But going into the offseason, the Chargers roster is good. What we said is let's get Herbert some protection. And just during free agency, I feel like they did the best of their ability.
I hope they address some defensive players in the draft, though. They have some holes to fill.
Hopefully Derwin James is healthy for this season.
For the first time in his career, if he's healthy, it'd be nice.
So the LA Rams, the team that basically kickstarted free agency with that big trade for Stafford. I love that trade. I mean, this trade feels like it's been months because it has been, right? It was January 31st, but that still counts for this free agency period. Huge upgrade at quarterback. I don't know where people view Stafford, but I was not a big fan of golf at all. So even though we gave up quite a lot for Stafford, I like it. I love Stafford. So I hated the Leonard Floyd contract, as Peter, I think we did it on the live stream. Just absolutely crazy overpay. Like, he had a good year last year, no doubt. I would have signed him back for somewhere between 12 to 14, what every other pass rusher is being paid, because pass rushers are paid. We can't sit here and say like, they aren't. Every single free agent was. If you could get to the quarterback, you're going to get paid a decent contract. We know that. So Floyd earned money. It's just like this much. I think this was a top right free agency signing or re-signing in terms of average per year.
Yeah,
it was like 17 or 18. He was not the best one or the second best one. So definitely an overpay. I mean, it's good to have him back with Donald, but Brockers isn't spectacular, but that basically threw him out the door.
You could argue though, like you could put anyone next to Aaron Donald and they'll put up the numbers that Leonard Floyd.
You could do that, yeah.
Almost, right? Because Dante Fowler did the same thing, and then you see what happened when he went to Atlanta last year. I think he got 15 per year.
When you have someone like Aaron Donald next to you on the defensive line, that's like getting these double teams all the times and forcing all these pressures, it makes it easy for you to just fly through like the A gap and kill the quarterback.
Yeah, you're going one-on-one every play.
Yeah. So.
But you know what? He worked for them last year. Hopefully, he continues to work. It just is a little bit of overpay.
Yeah. No. Look, I'm glad they brought him back. But just
Deshaun Jackson, I like. I know he's been hurt, so many times these couple of years, but when he does play, he can still stretch the field deep, which they needed. Like I like Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, but let's get someone, who Stafford can launch it all the way down the field too. So I would give them a B, and it's really just for Stafford. Like I feel like that's such a huge upgrade. It's not just like a small upgrade. It's such a big upgrade at the quarterback position.
Yeah. I'd be willing to give it an A, but besides the Stafford thing, I'm not wowed by anything, especially the Leonard Floyd contract. So I think B's accurate. Again, but mainly just because of Stafford, he's really carrying that B grade. And Markel made a good point with Leonard Floyd and just being a compliment to Aaron Donald instead of being worth that money on your, by yourself.
Yeah. And it is fair. I think they lost a few free agents as well that were not even like Troy Hill. I liked him a lot. Like they lost some depth pieces because of paying Leonard, all these.
They're still going to have a top end defense though in the league.
Oh no, of course. I'm just saying they are going to have to fill these holes in the draft that they let go, because when you're paying a bunch of guys, obviously you're going to lose the depth of your roster. It just, it is what it is. The Miami Dolphins, completely different approach than what they did last year. They kind of went all out last year on a couple, not big signings, but they kind of got like the middle class of free agency last year. And
speaking of Isaiah Wilson, real quick, he just got arrested.
Yeah,
I think he's done playing football.
He got released from the Dolphins, so
he's facing multiple charges from high-speed car chase right now.
So I wouldn't hold that against the Dolphins.
No.
They gave up a 7th round pick for a flyer for first rounder last year. That's not a bad thing. If it worked out, they would have looked brilliant. If he would have been able to change his attitude and whatnot, whatever happened with the Titans is not a good look.
Hey man, look, we could probably see him in a few years back in the league. Like Darren Waller had this same problem where I think he got suspended and like put on the commissioner's exempt list for I think a year or two, and then ended up coming back and now he's Darren Waller.
I mean, I hope for his case that because he has talent. Like I hope he does figure it out, but right now it doesn't look good. Like he's not going to play this year for sure. My favorite move for them was obviously Will Fuller. I thought they got him at a really good contract too, and someone who they desperately needed. I think we said during the live stream when they were asking about wide receivers, everyone kept mentioning Galladay to them right before free agency, and I just never understood that because like they have Devontae Parker. I'm not saying Galladay isn't better than Parker. They're just really similar guys. Like go get someone who can stretch the field. And Will Fuller was extremely good last year. It was not just because of Deshaun Watson. I mean, that helps certainly when you have a great quarterback, but Will Fuller stepped up last year into a big role. And he was more than just a deep threat. He was doing everything last year, but his speed does bring a different element to the offense. Now that we hope, Tua is going to be the guy. I think we've known this for a while. So Tua year 2, we're giving him another option, just someone to open up the entire offense. So I like that. Everything else,
McKinney trade.
The Van Noy thing just didn't make any sense to me. I like getting McKinney. It just
it makes a little bit of sense because he was due to make big money. So if you don't want that contract like on the books in say next year or whatever, like it makes sense. But
it just stinks because he went back to the Patriots. So he literally went to the division.
Why sign a guy for 4 years if you're going to cut him after year 1?
Yeah, that's why when you're looking at contracts, always look at the guarantees. Don't really look at the actual numbers really don't tell you anything. Just guarantees tell you the real deal. If they play really good, they'll keep going. But for the most part, the guarantees is the actual deal.
I don't even think Van Noy played that bad.
Me neither.
He did it.
He was actually pretty good last year.
Yeah.
I would give them a C. Like maybe if we had a C plus, maybe that's more fair.
Yeah. But because we don't, I'm with you on the C. And before we move on real quick, and before Markel gives his grade, I actually thought like the Jacoby Brissett signing. I think losing Fitzpatrick behind Tua, Brissett obviously Tua is going to be the guy. And if for whatever reason it doesn't work out, Brissett has, seen his fair share of starts in Indianapolis. So he's not going to be, scared on the field. He's going to know what to do and how to run an offense. He's not going to be a superstar, but as long as you have talent around Brissett, he could still move the ball for you.
Yeah, agreed. And we know Flores likes to pull Tua. Like whenever the quarterback's struggling, if he has a chance to win the game, he's putting in Brissett if that comes up again. I don't know if I agree with that approach, for every situation. But hey, if you're a playoff team almost there and you need a spark, Jacoby Brissett's certainly not bad. He's played in this league for a while. And they got some decent, like Matt Skura was decent. Last year he was terrible with Baltimore, but he actually got a decent contract, so if he rebounds to his previous form, it's definitely not a bad signing for their offensive line. I'm curious to see what they do in the draft now. I know Markello, before we move on to the Vikings, when they signed Will Fuller, you were automatically, I think you and Peter already think they're taking, right, Sewell at 3. I don't think their draft changed because of Will Fuller, in my opinion, whether they take Chase or Sewell or Devontae Smith, whoever they take.
We'll see. I'm thinking either Sewell or a trade back. You just stack up more picks.
So the Minnesota Vikings, I didn't remember what they did, but Dalvin Tomlinson was someone I know, Markello, you were talking about when we were previewing free agency. I think the Giants did push to get him back, but since the Leonard Williams deal did not get done, I think until day 2 of free agency or day 3, he kind of walked out the door. Very good player. Especially for this defense. I love that signing. And I actually like the Patrick Peterson signing. I know it's not really a destination a lot of people saw coming, because when you think of older veteran corners, you think of like, all right, we're going to go to this playoff team or this Super Bowl caliber team. I don't think the Vikings are that right now, but the Vikings always seem to have one of the best rosters in football. And last year, Hunter did not play at all. Like, he's coming back this year automatically on top of adding Dalvin Tomlinson.
Well, I don't think Hunter wants to play without a contract.
What happened?
I don't think Hunter is going to play without an extension.
Well, he is technically signed long term. I know there's stuff going on there, but I'm going to assume for right now he's going to come back. They'll resolve it. So just getting him back on the field, who's like 26, one of the best pass rushers in football. They had 12 draft picks last year. I'm not saying all of them are going to hit, but Dantzler, Gladney, like they took high end corners talent last year, and rookie corners a tough job in the NFL. So I like adding Peterson, and then seeing year 2 jumps. So I'm not saying the Vikings are going to the Super Bowl. I'm just saying like their roster tends to be one of the best in football kind of every year. And I feel like they definitely got better this offseason.
If there was a B+, I'd give them a B+, but I wouldn't put them in the A category unless you guys think so. I'm not that wowed by it, but I think a solid B.
Yeah, I agree. B for sure.
Because they didn't have a lot of money to spend either. So,
and let's not forget, like Patrick Peterson might be on the older side now, the tail end, but he's not a scrub. Like, he still plays big in big games. So if we have a Green Bay, Minnesota primetime game, big division game, Patrick Peterson is going to be able to hold his own. He's not going to get disrespected on Sunday Night Football.
Exactly. And I feel like Mike Zimmer does well. I know Rhodes kind of ended badly there, but for the most part,
Peterson is better than Rhodes ever was.
Yeah, way more athletic and everything. The Patriots, probably outside of the Texans, the most active team, and definitely the team that's, I guess, maybe outside of the Giants, who spend the most and kind of had flashy signings. They completely went they purged the entire free agency class to begin with. I feel like every hour or two, the Patriots were signing somebody. So they definitely got a lot better. Like, they were already a team that won 7 games last year. Huge upgrades at the tight end positions. Bringing back Van Noy, I absolutely loved it. I hate it as a Jet fan, but someone who's just watching from the outside.
Unbiased from them.
Unbiased, yeah. Van Noy extremely well under Belichick. Judon's a little bit too much, but it is what it is. Like, I like Patriots will. I'm not sure how
get the best out of him.
He's going to be a good player, solid player. Aguilar, I'm not sure if he's going to repeat what he did last year, so this might be a bad contract, but the Patriots needed to add wide receiver talent. It was them and the Jets last year were just straight up trash for wide receivers, like bottom of the league. So, like, I would give them a solid B, like probably a B plus if we could. I don't want to give them an A because I quite frankly.
You're gonna hate me, Ryan, but I'm giving them an A.
All right, well,
I agree with Markello.
Like I understand.
Go for it.
I understand they did overpay for a few guys, and Judon, and they really didn't need to go out there and pay Hunter Henry when they had just signed Jonnu Smith the day prior.
I didn't mind that. I thought that was smart actually. But
yeah, no, like I know they're going to try and run it back to the Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski days, but like you just didn't need to go out there and spend the extra money when you just you're already throwing bags at everybody. But the fact of the matter is that they needed to get they hit every single position. Like did they get at least one per position? Let's see.
Almost.
They signed an offensive lineman. They signed a tight end. They signed defensive lineman, a linebacker.
Yeah, 2 wide receivers.
They got a corner in Jalen Mills. Yeah, dude, this is just like crazy. They went out and
you know what? I might be with you. Also,
Belichick was not having it again.
Also, bringing back David Andrews on his contract. I know you guys seen it. Really,
thought about that. Yeah.
He took a really friendly deal, like really friendly. He could have got paid way more.
I mean, but dude, look how this team is set up. Like, I would take a team-friendly deal at that point too, because they're arguably one of the better teams in the division right now.
Yeah, I already think they're the second best team again. I thought.
Yeah, it's them and the Bills right now.
Ryan, let me put you over the top for a second. You have you bring in Cam Newton last year on a 1-year prove-it deal, right? You don't have any talent on the offense, right? Your defense is lackluster because you lost a lot of guys. And you come in this year, he won 7 games. That's with the whole COVID thing and the injury. Now you're getting Cam at 100%. You're not giving him excuses. Cam loves tight ends. You give him 2 great tight ends, right? Even though Aguilar's not a star, Bourne's not a star, you bring in some more options at receiver.
And they are upgrades for sure. So.
And you bolster up a Bill Belichick defense. You don't have to have superstars on defense if you play for Bill Belichick. You need good players who know their role, know how to play football, the ins and outs, high IQ guys, and that's what Bill Belichick got. All around on every position needed.
And
they won 7 games. I don't see how they don't win 10 games this year.
That's another one, yeah. Markello mentioned Trev Brown, huge addition. I know they lost Joe Thuney. They still
have a top 3 offensive line. Yeah. So if they won 7 games last year, I don't see how they lose. I don't see how they win less than 10 games.
Yeah, you guys. I wasn't giving him B plus, but we don't have that. It wasn't like a B. He was definitely, and they have had one of the best free agencies. Definitely one of the teams that improved the most. But at the same time, we also have to realize that they're a team that spent the most. Like it does go hand in hand. Regardless of the
guaranteed money, they've made, I think, the most drastic improvement.
So do I. It's not that I'm scared because I know Belichick, this is it. He's going forward. This is kind of his last ride, like his last window of like.
You said this on the live stream.
So I don't mind the approach. It's just like we're giving it an A right now, right? And I do think the short-term effects are going to be very good. Like you're going to see a Patriot team that went from 7-9 to getting the guys back who opted out to adding all this. So I do think they're going to be the second best team in the division. Is it possible they could overtake Buffalo? Maybe. Like, if Cam Newton's really good, that would be case scenario. But either way, they seem like a really strong candidate for a wild card team. But I'm just questioning if we could look back maybe 3 years from now, how many guys they sign are still here. I think that might be cut in half or more. That's my only concern. But right now, like, you don't have to convince me right now, like the A, like for what they did. Yeah. It just when you
look, it was either they had 2 routes. They could have either gone into a rebuild this year or gone for it like they did. Either way, even if this doesn't work out, then they'll just be rebuilding in 3 years.
Yeah. And I don't think Belichick now because they're still going to rebuild anyway. I don't think Belichick wanted that full rebuild right now.
No. Like there is still. But look, if you have the option, if you have the choice to win 10 or 11 games, you do it.
So let's move on. You guys you convinced me. A. I'm just saying, be cautious and let's look back at this in a couple of years and see if it really was an A. But I do think short term, definitely an A. But like I said, I would have given them a B plus, but it's not really much of a difference between just one letter grade. The New Orleans Saints, obviously we didn't expect them to be very active. They weren't for obvious reasons. They had to get under the cap, which they did. They ended up keeping basically all their star players, but certainly lost depth. Fair to say. Maybe lost. But you ended up keeping Marcus Williams at the same time.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's the one guy. That was the big guy that we thought we were going to lose. Yeah. And we were able to bring back. So
and I thought you were going to lose him too, but I did say the only way to keep him was the franchise tag because you've seen what Simmons just got paid. If he would hit the market, he was getting 14 or 15 average per year. Yeah. So I would give the Saints a C. Expectations weren't high, but the fact that you were able to keep all of your players. If you extended Ramczyk or Lattimore by now, I might move that to a B, but I still expect them to be extended maybe at a later point. But I would just give them a C, C+, like, because you certainly did get worse, but you also kept your star players.
Yeah, I agree.
You're going to C, Markello?
Well, yeah, look, like you guys. Like,
it's not a bad C. Like, this is a different kind of C than the Lions and Texans.
Like you guys retained the players that you like needed to, and then you lost a lot of your good like depth role playing guys. So if you can fill that back with like draft, which is looking like the case at this point, like good for you guys. But for right now, I'm saying a C.
And we kind of expect you to do that, or at least half of them during the draft, because we know what the Saints do, or they tend to draft pretty well. I wouldn't advise trading a bunch of picks to move up this year. I feel like this is the year we have to kind of
Loomis and Sean Payton, though, they'll do it.
I know, but I feel like this is the year maybe to move back and kind of build up the depth of the roster. But we'll see what they do. Just for free agency, it's like a C, C+, like a very solid overall.
I'm not going to fight you guys. The homer in me wants to say B just because like it's one of those situations where you were negative like $100 million in cap. So given that, you did the absolute best any GM in the league could have done. I think he is the best GM in terms of how he's able to manipulate the cap and the salary cap and all that. And we lost guys I love. Honestly, the biggest loss for me, believe it or not, is Thomas Morstead. That's our biggest locker room guy out the door, right? It doesn't say here, Ryan, but your new York Jet, Hardy, he was a great locker room guy and just great on special teams. So I'll do the C just because of the people we lost, but it was really nothing we could have done in that scenario.
Yeah, there's different levels of C, like expectations for the Saints with money wasn't expected. Like
Norris Jenkins walking out hurts, definitely. Josh Hill, not for nothing, hurt more than Jared Cook leaving 100%. So I'll take a C. I see it.
Yeah, and listen, we're going to recap the entire offseason. We'll do it after the draft. So, like, grades are going to be different. Like we said, this is just for agency. So, So one of the big spenders, Dave Gettleman, opened up his checkbook massively.
Let Markello do this.
Yeah, so I'll give a little preview, and then we can let Markello go. So the Giants, I believe, walked into free agency with negative $3 million when Leonard got tagged. So for a team that had essentially very little to no money, certainly made big splashes. Something that we did advise for Daniel Jones year 3 now, right? So we have to know for a fact if Daniel Jones is the quarterback or not. We're not very high on it. We're not very high on him here, but we certainly have weapons now to give him a fair chance and to see if he is worth extending in the future. So from there, let's give Markello the floor.
Oh, man. All right. I honestly, I kind of like everything we've done in terms of like the signings and names. With the money, not so much. Starting off with like the biggest contract we gave out, well, not the biggest one, the second biggest one we gave out, and to Leonard Williams. He's not worth no $21 million Khalil Mack money a year. So, like, I get Williams was a big piece. We didn't want to lose him. That's why we placed the tag on him at first, but then that extension just isn't doing it for me. That's too much money for me, at least. I wouldn't even say I hated to lose Zeitler just because he did start. So like we started to see like the last year didn't play too well. Golden Tate needed to go. Great cut. That was unnecessary money on the books. John Ross on that little $2.5 million, 1-year deal. You guys are high on it. I just don't see where he's gonna like fit now, especially with the Kenny Golladay signing. He's more of like a wide receiver 4, maybe if you want to like drop him back as like a returner. But other than that, the big one for me, Kenny Golladay, 4 years, $72 million, absolutely lovely deal. Love that. Daniel Jones really needs to show me some stuff though. I was seeing something though. He had like the highest 50-50 ball percentage like last year or something like that. I don't know if that's I
think it was 20 plus yards throws or something.
Yeah, something like that. So, I mean, hopefully, getting Golladay now, who's, the go up and get it their receiver, hopefully we can convert more of those, get some touchdowns on the other end, make the offense come more alive. And then yesterday we got a Dory Jackson, another, great signing. But again, the money, I don't know if I would pay him that much.
So what would you give it as a grade before me and Peter kind of recap?
I'm gonna give us a B just because we did give out really big money contracts. Like if we didn't give out the money, I'd say an A.
Yeah, I'm in the same exact boat as you. I thought you were gonna give an A, so that's why I wanted you to go first. I also agree.
I'm realistic, bro. I'm not one of the Giants fans that are lost in their own fantasy world that think we're the greatest gift of football.
No, and listen, you were pretty humble. You said second or third in the division as well, which a lot of Giants fans have already granted themselves winners before the draft and everything. But they're, I guess they're all in expecting to win the division this year. It's possible. You certainly got better, much better. If Daniel Jones takes that leap and the defense stays the same, of course you can do it. What I'll say is the Leonard Williams contract. So before we even get to Galladay or Dory Jackson, if Patrick Graham walks out the door after the season, right, which is a good chance because I think the defense is going to be good again. I think he's going to get a head coaching job. Leonard Williams is going to be a hated New York Giant by 2022, 2023. It's going to be a disaster. Granted, I didn't know it was only 3 years. I thought it was like a 4 or 5 year deal. So maybe he isn't here for like the long term, but that contract's going to suck a year from now. And he just isn't a top tier player. He's good. Like to be honest, I didn't even want to pay him 14 with the Jets, but like I think he's around that range, especially after last year. Like a 13, 15 is the absolute maximum, but I think 14 is more of the price. So complete overpay.
If we were to give him 16, 17 a year, I'd be cool with that. But 21 is like,
yeah, if the cap is like massively rising, which we expect, maybe, but just for right now, just not a good contract for me. But it is what it is. You got him back, and Gettleman, to his credit, at least didn't let the franchise tag hinder him. He got the extension done, which was able to get these moves. So from that point of view, okay, good on Gettleman. Get rid of that stupid, franchise tag actual cap hit. Rudolph, I actually kind of liked. You kind of skipped over him, but a little bit of an overpay. But like to bring him in kind of with Evan Ingram, who I know a lot of Giant fans are frustrated with the drops. Rudolph's a really solid red zone target too for Daniel Jones. I know he's a little bit slow, but it is what it is. Like Rudolph's a good blocker. Hopefully his foot's okay.
Fast inside the 10.
Yeah, I think that's totally what we brought him in for, just like blocking and like the little red zone situations. Which
is fine. We're gonna get all the help we need, and maybe I don't know what they're gonna do in the draft. I think it's probably gonna be defense now, but I think they did more than enough to help Daniel Jones in year 3 to get a full picture of who he is. And that brings us to Galladay. Someone we mentioned the Giants should definitely go after. Made a ton of sense. And it's good you closed it. Like, how cool is it that Logan Ryan and these guys and Saquon Barkley are calling Daniel Jones actually called Kenny Galladay, just listening to him speak and selling them on the picture, on the culture the Giants have built. That's where I like the Giants right now with Joe Judge. Galladay wasn't overspent, though. I'll say that. Before free agency, if you would have given this out day one, I wouldn't have said anything. But just based on what we knew, what was going on around the league, Galladay probably as best offered I don't even think it was 14. I think it was like 12 or 13. But it is what it is. It's done now. He's on the Giants, and you got him long term. Because I would not have liked a 1 year deal. I don't think that would have helped much. So I would have rather. I don't want to be penny pinching here, but like when you give Leonard Williams that much money, I think you have to be a little bit conservative with the rest. But Galladay is going to be, as long as he stays healthy, I'm not really concerned about that. I know people have been. I don't think he missed a ton of time in Detroit outside this past year, so I'm not really that concerned. And I think he took a physical with his hip, so everything should be good. But I would have preferred to get him at like 15 or 16. But it is what it is. It's done. It's a great move for the team. Just maybe a little bit of an overpay. The Dory Jackson is actually someone I wanted for the Jets, and then when I seen the contract, I'm not gonna lie to you, I laughed out loud. It was like $13 million per year for a guy who was just released on day Kyle Fuller just got 9.5, and he's I know Dory Jackson's younger. The upside's still there. I'm not saying he's not going to pan out and play well because you have Bradbury here, a good defense. Like he's not going to be asked to be the number 1. But for a guy who has 2 career interceptions and played 12 games in the past 2 years, this might have been your most ridiculous contract, in my opinion. So
yeah. It's definitely an overpay. I'm not a fan of the contract, but I like the upside it brings.
So do I. And it was very cool. Like we mentioned, Logan Ryan, he actually flew in with dinner. So I like what the Giants are doing, like culture-wise. Just some of these contracts might, like if Gettleman's fired, right, in a year or two, which is possible, or after this year, which might not be anymore because if you win the division, he won't be. We might look back at this free agency a little bit different than we.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, this signing definitely like sums up our secondary though now because we have Xavier McKinney,
really good,
first, and then we have Bradbury, Jackson, and then we have Logan Ryan running, nickel. So
So I gave a really long answer, but overall, I'm pleased with the Giants. And Gettleman's desperate. We can acknowledge that Gettleman's on the hot seat. He could have been fired last year, so He needed.
I think at the end of the season, if we suck again,
yeah,
it's him and Daniel Jones out the door together.
So you know what he did? He went out swinging at least, and maybe it saved him. Honestly, this definitely could have saved him. So overall, and the team got a lot better. Even though we mentioned some of the overpays, the Giants team roster got much better, and I think are in position now with a good draft to possibly win the division.
Yeah. I didn't think I was going to come in giving them the grade I'm going to give them. I'm actually going to give the Giants an A, me personally.
Oh, you're crazy.
I think no, hear me out, because I know we're looking at obviously the Leonard Williams contract. Ryan mentioned the Dory Jackson contract with 2 years being guaranteed, even the Kenny Galladay, because I told you I don't think any team offered more than 14. So overpays, yes, you see it all over. Even 14 million for Kyle Rudolph, as consistent of a tight end as he is. I think that's a little bit much, but at the end of the day, close your eyes and don't look at the numbers. All of these players make the Giants a way better team. And let's think of it in the perspective of this. Let's take a step back. Yes, it's a lot of money, but you're bringing in, and these aren't just like good players. These are really good players, at least for what Leonard Williams brought to your defense last year, what Kenny Galladay is. And you're not asking a Dory Jackson to be cornerback 1. So if you're asking Dory to be cornerback 2 in an already stout defense with Patrick Graham, that's phenomenal, I think. So don't even look at the money, because you're bringing in as much talent as you could bring in. At the same time, you have to spend the money now, because if you don't spend it now, all of the money is going to end up going to Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones in a few years. So the reason why you draft rookie quarterbacks, or again, I would never draft a running back pick 2 of a draft, but granted, you have to pay Saquon all this money and Daniel Jones all this money. So bring in as much talent as you can now, try to make the playoffs, make your push now, and then you cross the bridge when you get there, when it comes time to extend those guys.
Okay, so I think we average out to a B. I mean, the Giants.
I'll go to a B. I'm not going to force you to make an A on this, obviously, but I like what the Giants did. But B's fine.
Listen, exactly what you said is fair. Like, looking at the players, they definitely got a lot better. It's just the contracts for me pull it down a little bit of like.
That's fine. No, I totally understand, because I think they did overpay for everybody.
But if we had,
I think if you're going to overpay, this is the free agency class to do it. Specifically for the Giants.
Yeah.
Just because of who's on your roster now and who you're going to have to pay soon.
And like you said, year 3 of Daniel Jones. This is and the with the NFL kind of contract, the new one with the TV deals coming out next year, but the cap's going to rise again. Maybe these contracts won't be as bad. Maybe the Giants lucked out where they kind of
you already have these guys locked up. You're not throwing around 1-year deals.
It's fair. We'll see. And so let's go to our next New York team. I'm actually, before I even say anything, I'm also giving them a B. I didn't really want to give out many A's during this free agency class, and I don't think we did, because not every team deserves an A, even though there are some good moves. So from the Jets' point of view, and this is weird because a lot of Jet fans aren't happy on Twitter. Like, I don't know what they expected. This is a reminder for every team. I know we're almost at the end of our list now, but guys, there are 31 other teams besides your team. Like, I know you may want a specific player, but a lot of these players have backgrounds with coaches and different teams. So like, you can't get every player you want. Like, the plan was with every Jet fan, what they said for free agency, go sign Joe Thuney, right? Is Joe Thuney going to sign? He got paid the highest paid guard in the league. He had an opportunity to play with Patrick Mahomes. You're telling me he's going to come play with the Jets and their answer at quarterback? No, we're not there yet. We're not, like, the Chiefs are back-to-back Super Bowls. So guys have to be a little bit more realistic in general. I'll say that before, that's just anybody watching. You have to be more realistic. Like, you can't get every single player you want. Unfortunately, it's not how it works. But let's just move on to the Jets. The first move they made, tagging May, I liked it, bringing him back, and he actually signed his the tender, the franchise tag. So hopefully we can get a long-term deal done. Nothing crazy, like 2 or 3 years. Jared Davis was our first signing. Definitely an overpay. Just kind of a shocker. And this is actually a 1 year, $5.5 million with like up to $7 million on playing time and something else. Just a player who did not play very well in Detroit, obviously a first-round pick. Now, what I'm hoping, and Jet fans too, is like, okay, we looked at Kyle Van Noy, right, in Detroit, and he was almost out of the league, and then he went to Belichick and a good defense coordinator, and he became a very good player. So in the back of my mind, I'm hoping, all right, hopefully this happens again. It's like Detroit was such a mess under Patricia that they really couldn't develop and get players to their ability. So hopefully, but for right now, it's like, okay, that's kind of a questionable move, but I get it. Like, we need linebacker help. Corey Davis, I actually really like this one. So it's definitely, I would give it a B plus to an A minus. the contract actually pretty good. He's like the 19th or 20th highest paid receiver. So I think he's a very quality number 2. I don't know if he's going to be playing the number 1 role this year. We'll see with Mims, but a lot of Jet fans before free agency was saying like Allen Robinson, Galladay, Godwin. Obviously, 2 of these guys never hit the market, and the Jets were never really in on Galladay. I don't think it made much sense for us personally. So Corey Davis, I like his skill set. I hope that he plays the way he did his last year in Tennessee. I think he will. It's a similar offense, so I like the fit. Carl Lawson, one of my favorite players in the entire league. So I was so happy with this. By far, my favorite move in free agency for the Jets, and such a position of need. We haven't had a pass rusher since John Abraham, so it's literally been 10 to 15 years. So pumped up with that one. Got him at a pretty good price. Like you said, you're going to pay pass rushers, so. And I expect him to become like a household name under Saleh. He might not be a household name yet in the league. I think most people know who he is, but if you don't, you will under Saleh. And some of these other guys, 1-year deals. Joyner, he's going to play safety here. So can he get back to his Rams days? Hopefully. This deal also is a little bit misleading. I only know these details because I'm a Jet fan, so you can kind of read the breakdowns. It's a 1-year, $3 million deal against the cap. So pretty good deal and definitely worth the flyer. We don't know about Ashton Davis going into year 2. So to pair Marcus May with Joyner and then Davis, I like. Keelan Cole, and we'll end here. I don't want to spend all this time on the Jets and Giants, which we did, but it's okay. It's our teams. Keelan Cole, I liked. I mean, it was kind of surprising, but like people are complaining, and it's like we went into every year with like Chris Hogan starting, like receivers who are not in the league anymore. Demaryius Thomas 2 years ago, where he couldn't even run anymore. Like he literally, and like, so people complain when we have injuries, right? And then they're like, oh, we could have drafted this guy and that guy. It's like, okay, but we want to get it done now. Like we have so many needs in the draft, right? Like, and the Jets do, we're obviously rebuilding. So I don't really get why people are complaining about every single move that we made. It's kind of like frustrating and dumb, but Keelan Cole is number 4 is nice. Is it a little bit overpay? Sure. But apparently he had a big market with a couple teams interested. So if you really want to get nitpicky, I would have given him maybe 4, but like, it is what it is. Like that's penny pinching for a team that's in basically, I'm going to assume we're drafting a quarterback. I think everyone's kind of is coming around to that. So you're basically in year 1 of the quarterback contract. So I don't really mind that. And I like having more than 3 guys who are NFL receivers on the team. Like he's a quality number 3, number 4 receiver who gets open and he actually can win vertically with his, so he's not that fast, but like he's not slow either. So he goes up and gets it. He has a weird body, but it works. He's pretty decent, and he can also punt return. So just a little bit added value. Tyler Kroft, just a depth signing, backup tight end blocker. It is what it is, cheap contract. So, and Sheldon Rankins was kind of surprised. I mean, the Jets don't really need defensive line, but kind of a nice surprise. And all these, for most of these players, you realize that these are players who are young, like they're 26 and 27 for the most part, outside of Joyner. And, so a lot of the guys we gave big money to or multi-year deals, they were all 20. I think they're all 26. So I do like that. Much better approach than signing guys who are 29 or 30, kind of, gearing toward the end. We're signing guys in their prime. So with all that being said, I know I went on a little bit of a rant there, a little bit of a rumble. Solid free agency. I wouldn't say it's what I expected, but I'm not disappointed. B, like just very solid B. Team got much better. So many holes. And I'm excited to now go into the draft and hopefully take a quarterback 2nd overall.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd say you guys did pretty well, like in hitting things you needed to get. Like with, I mean, I think you guys probably have one of the better D lines in football right now.
Yeah.
What would you guys like? Top 5?
Top 3, honestly. It's so deep. Like I'm not even mentioning because I don't want to keep going on about the Jets, but like.
Yeah, top 3.
Yeah,
so, and then you guys compare Corey Davis. I like the contract. It's pretty good for what he showed last year. Hopefully, he can continue that on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd give you guys a solid B just because I think, granted, not everyone, like you said, not every team can get every player, but if you guys could have gotten like a Thuney or a Lindsley, it would have been.
It would have been that might have been a range then, but obviously the offensive line, we still need offensive line. We didn't fix that at all. So you can knock us a little bit on that. There was other guys available. The Jets weren't interested in centers, but if we have a plan in the draft, we'll see. But you can knock us for that. and you can knock us for not really addressing the secondary at all. So that's why I'm giving it a B. But then again, when you factor in all the holes that we had, like we're not like a normal team where like some teams will have maybe like 3 needs. Jets might have needed 10 needs coming into free agency. So they definitely filled holes. It's just maybe not, it's not what you kind of expected. But like I said, I'm not disappointed. I'm pretty happy overall. And it feels better than most years because I hated being the team that was giving out huge contracts every year. Like it never worked. We tried it 100 times. I'm not saying we didn't give out money this time. That's where people get lost. Like we gave out money, but like to ascending players or people in their prime. So I just like the philosophy approach much better under Douglas.
Yeah. So for me, this is a very, very good B. Like, again, this would be in the B plus range for me, actually, because like you said, if you had one of those offensive lineman signings, that would brought you in the A range. Or if you were able to bring in like a Kyle Fuller, right, that would have brought you over the top 2. But obviously, with the Jets being a rebuilding team, call what
Steven
it is.
Nelson, hopefully. He just got released today.
So the Jets, obviously, you win 2 games. It's not going to be, regardless of the coaching staff you have now, when you coming off a 2-win season, it's not an attractive place to go play and, show your talents and extend, for your next contract. Players think of this kind of thing. But look, Jared Davis let's start off first one, right? So he wasn't used correctly in Detroit. That's first and foremost, just who he is as a player coming out of college who was scouted to be high, right? He was supposed to be one of the best linebackers in his draft. They did not use him how he was used in college, and that was a mistake. You bring back Marcus May, which was great. Some people think that wouldn't have happened, right? And again, underrating signing. I'm not just saying this. My favorite, obviously, Carl Lawson, because like Ryan said, you haven't had a pass rusher in 10 to 15 years, and Salah's defense, you really, really need one. So you add that to the team. Marcus Joyner, another player you got really cheap 1-year deal who wasn't used correctly, which is why you got him for that price. So if you put him back at safety, and Salah likes running 3 safeties at the field at the same time. So what he could get out of that with May, Joyner, and Ashton Davis on the field at the same time, that could look good. Keelan Cole, underrated signing for 1 year. Corey Davis, I liked. Like Ryan said before, I wouldn't put him as a wide receiver 1. So you have to hope Denzel Mims makes that jump. But still, to bring in another receiver in the building so you don't have to deal with Vincent Smith and all the people they were throwing out last year was good. And then me being a homer, I love the Sheldon Rankin signing. He's coming off a bunch of injuries throughout the past few years. He had the Achilles, he had some ankle problems, he has his injuries, but when he's healthy and 100% and fully playing, which he should be coming into this year, before the Achilles injury, he was a top 5, maybe even top 3 defensive tackle in football. And you put him next to Quinnen Williams now in the 4-3 defense with Carl Lawson on one side, draft another edge rusher on, maybe in the draft at some point. Yeah, like Markel, would you say top 3 defensive line?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay,
At least,
so you have,
like, who would you put above them if you had to?
Yeah, no, I agree. Because look, if you put Sheldon Rankins next to Quinnen Williams, I'm assuming Quinnen Williams is obviously the better player. Quinnen Williams is going to get to the point in his career where he's going to start getting double teamed every play, especially in the 4-3 system where you have Carl Lawson, Quinnen Williams. Like Sheldon Rankins is not just one of the best run stuffers in the league. Like he could get to the quarterback from the inside. So you bring in 2 defensive tackles. You have Quinnen Williams, Sheldon Rankins next to each other who could both get to the quarterback, not including who you have at the edge. This is going to be one of the most relentless lines. Like Sheldon Rankins is going to win his one-on-one matchups. If you have to double team Lawson or if you have to double team Quinnen Williams or have a running back chip somebody, Rankins is going to be in the backfield. And even if the sacks don't show it, which they haven't because of the injuries, like Ryan, we talked about the F up the play stat, right? That Chris Sims talks about, that Carl Lawson has. Sheldon Rankins has that too. So you add him to that defensive line.
Even that other guy, I can't pronounce his name. I just call him F squared.
Foley Fatakowski.
Yeah. F squared, my guy. Yeah, he's even good. So you have like so many different options where even if you didn't want to play Rankins full time because he's so old, you want to make sure he doesn't get injured. Like you play F squared and Williams.
Well, Rankins is not even old.
Oh yeah, Rankins is 26, 27.
Oh really? Wow.
Yeah, it's just his injuries that's
crazy.
Plagued him the past few years. He's in his prime.
This is something that Salah did with the Niners too. He clearly invested in the defensive line. Every year they were taking a defensive line in round 1, and you're getting your first round pick. The Jets are better than them because they had Nick Bosa, so I'm not saying that, or D Ford, but the Jets, like interior with Quinnen Williams involved, because Buckner was not the player he was until like year 3 or 4 and he got better when he's with the Colts. So like right now Buckner's better than Quinnen, but just comparing San Francisco like those years, outside of Nick Bosa, this defensive line is better than what they had, because like Armstead is good, but he's not great. Like I feel like I really like Quinnen Williams. I think he's going to be a stud. I think he already is. So, and if Rankins, like Peter's saying, can get back to form with one-on-one matchups, this defensive line, there's not many better in the league. Like top 3, it could easily be 1 if everything pans out correctly. But for right now, let's not. They have to earn it.
So as long as Douglas has a good draft, this was a great free agency for him, regardless of the big names like the Linsleys or the Thuneys, right? And another thing, these are all culture guys. We didn't talk about Justin Hardy, I mentioned earlier, on special teams. He's, I think, the best special teamer gunner in the league, right? So not only is he a huge culture guy, all the guys that Douglas brought in, these are guys that don't do anything else. They like eat, breathe, and sleep football.
Yeah, and there's eat, sleep, and they said crap football. That's everything they wanted.
Yeah, so like even when they're not playing on Sunday or watching film on Monday or practicing throughout the week, like on their free time, they're not playing video games. They're not going out to they're watching film for themselves or watching Thursday Night Football. Like these are all football guys, and especially Justin Hardy. Like the great thing with the Saints was that our special teams unit was top 3 in the league. Nobody ever had good field position on us, and if you're able to mimic that or replicate it in New York, you get your defense in a good position, push the other team back on their side of the field, right? Get the ball back to your offense. Hopefully it's going to be Zach Wilson and give him more opportunities. It's just, Douglas has a good plan. It's just, obviously you want the offensive line help still, and you need the secondary help, but let's just, let's wait for the drafts to be over to make an overall judgment on that.
Yeah, exactly. And also, like, just while we wrap it up here, we'll go to the Eagles very quickly. The Jets are much different. Every team is different, right, in their level of building. The Jets had so many holes left by the previous GM. This team that's obviously nowhere near to compete. So don't factor in, like, a lot of people are expecting us to go to the playoffs next year. Like, I think there's different expectations, right? Because like some of the fan base wants to keep Darnold, right? And if you keep Darnold for year 4, he better be getting near to the playoffs. That's all I'm going to say. I have no plan in that. That should not be the that should not be what we're going for, because like we're not there yet. Like the team's definitely gotten better.
Look at the moves that Douglas has made so far. He's not going to keep Sam Darnold.
No, I don't think so either. I don't think it ever made any sense to keep him. Quite frankly, he stinks. I don't care what you think. He sucks. Like, he is a bottom 3 quarterback. All the stats show it. The film shows it. Like, I know he hasn't had a lot of help. And granted, the Jets have to do better by the next quarterback, and it's probably going to be Zach Wilson. We'll see his pro day this Friday. As long as everything goes well and the medicals check out, I do think it's going to be him, like 75%.
The only reason why Sam Darnold is still on the roster is because Douglas is just trying to get as highest compensation as he can get. And if he can't get a second-round pick, like, you can't blame him.
I don't care at this point. As long as we move on from him, I don't care what we get. Just make the decision. If we lost, or if we can get a 3rd-round pick now, or if we didn't play our hand correctly, and we could have a second and we didn't do it, admit it. Don't just keep him and then just say, like, okay, he's okay. We'll just move on and we'll trade down and build a roster. And then you're sitting here next year, have to move all your picks to trade up and get a quarterback. Like, I don't want to be, and this is going to sound crazy, I don't want to be where the Bears are. Granted, their team's a lot further along, right? I don't want to do that. I don't want to do what Washington did, unfortunately, because Haskins didn't work out, where they built the roster around a rookie quarterback and he failed. I don't want to do what the Colts did. Andrew Luck retired. I understand the roster is great, but I don't want to be trading a second, 2 seconds for like a Carson Wentz type of player. Give me a rookie and we'll try to make it work. That should be the approach, and I think it will be. So spent a lot of time on the New York teams. A bit biased here, but it's okay. Let's move on to we gave the Jets a D. The Philadelphia Eagles. Anthony Harris, by far their best signing, quality signing.
They're another cap strap team.
Yeah, very cap strap team, second least in the league. Signed Joe Flacco. He will somehow find his way onto the field for a game or 2 this year, maybe 3. So I would just give him a C. Like, there's not a lot of moves here.
Just call it Anthony Harris was a good signing. It was really,
honestly, trading Carson Wentz for 2 seconds is impressive after the season he just had. I don't even care if he works out or not. He clearly wasn't working out in Philly, because they either broke him or the confidence was shot. There was a weird relationship at the end. So he didn't want to be here. Most importantly, that he did not want to be here. So if he does work out, it sucks for the Eagles. But at the same point, the performance he's coming off of this year, to be able to recoup 2 second-round picks, is a plus for me. So I'll give him a C.
Yep, I'm gonna go with the C.
So we have a lot of teams who are on just looking at before we move on. A lot of teams, obviously in the B range, C's. So I like it. We kept A to like the very top. I think of
yeah.
I didn't want to be like giving everyone A's and
Well, the thing is, look, if you're in the A category, it's extremely hard to do, right? The B category is going to be like obviously if you had a good free agency.
Yep.
Most of the C category were the teams that are cap strapped and you just really couldn't do much. So you just really didn't want to be in the D range. You don't want to be the Raiders.
Yeah. And even when we talked about teams, when you listen to us, like we kind of did give like C's and C pluses, like, and even B's and B pluses. So there was a little bit of a difference. So the other team in Philly, Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania.
I'm not happy with Pittsburgh's offseason.
Yeah, I would give them like a C or a D.
Here's the thing. So I don't know why they kept Joe Hayden instead of like, I would have brought back Mike Hilton, who they let go to the Bengals. I thought he was extremely important to that defense, slot corner. He didn't get paid very much. Joe Hayden, I understand, he kind of had that rejuvenation down there in Pittsburgh. He's been good, but he's certainly toward the very end. And I would have rather kept Steven Nelson too. Like I thought he was good since he's been with Pittsburgh. Like he's not a household name, but he's a solid corner. If you would have given me the option of Steven Nelson and Mike Hilton over Joe Hayden, I would have done it. And, Juju Smith to get this contract is good. No doubt about it. Like $8 million is nowhere near the market we thought he was going to have. I thought he might have got paid almost double this, like before free agency.
Well, he had other people offering more money. So what do you think it was that like brought him back to Pittsburgh?
He just loves Pittsburgh and he loves Big Ben.
But Pittsburgh drafts so well every year. I don't know if do they really need Juju Smith? I don't think they did. I know like he wanted to be there, and the contract they got him for is good. Like we're saying that for sure. But the Steelers hit on mid-round receivers every single year, second and third round receivers.
I think it was just more or less like we lost Bud Dupree and now we have disposable money, so we might as well not lose Bud Dupree and Juju.
I
would rather kept Steven Nelson, if I'm being honest. I would rather just kept the entire secondary.
Well, I know, but here's the thing. My big thing with the Steelers this offseason was we talked about it earlier in the show, right? Going into a free agency, you want to either maintain your team, right? Especially when you're that good at the Pittsburgh Steelers, you started off 11-0, or get better, right? And I think they're one of the teams that got worse when they didn't have to get worse, right? Your strength was your secondary, and your strength was your defense, and you lost half your defense.
Well, not half, but like three.
I'm exaggerating.
Three big pieces that you have to fill in.
You lost a big, solid pieces of your defense, and then on offense, granted, James Conner was always, not consistent, but he's out the door. Juju, you barely got back. That was more of his say-so, because if it was any other wide receiver in the league, they would have left. You would have been without him. And you brought back Big Ben, which, again, I get it. It's your franchise. Like, he won you Super Bowls, but was that really the smartest thing to do, to bring back Big Ben for another year? Are the Steelers really going to win a Super Bowl this year?
No, that window closed.
Yeah, probably not, but based on they made that decision, we didn't agree with it. And even cutting Vince Williams, who's played a lot of snaps, so they did lose actually 4 big pieces. But from their point of view,
their offensive line, they lost people.
Yeah, Tyson Lulu walked out the door. So yeah, actually they did lose quite a lot. So it's either a C or D. Like if Juju,
I'm at a D. I don't think Juju saves it.
Markello?
I'll give him a C because they brought back Juju. That's a big piece to like bring back. You know what I mean?
You lost offensive line, you lost defensive line, you lost secondary.
But they didn't have a lot of money also either. So like we have to. I know,
but Ryan, all you have to show for it is re-signing Juju for 1 year.
Yeah, I'm either at a C or D. Like if it is a C, I'm giving it like a C minus. Like it's very close to.
If you guys want to go to a D, it's fine by me.
Pouncey retired. He did nothing about it, right?
Yeah, the offense line actually.
What happened to Villanueva?
He's still not back yet. You know what? I'll give him a D for that, because the offensive line's still a mess. And honestly, I would rather Pittsburgh draft another receiver. They didn't even have to, because you have Deontay Johnson, and I like Claypool. And
they have so many other holes to fill now.
James Washington's not bad either. He can certainly be number 3. So, and the wide receiver class is good again. Like that's another thing in the draft. So like,
but that's not where their holes lie. And now they have many, many holes.
Yeah, and you know what? I still wouldn't cut Steven Nelson. I'm not saying he's an all-star, but you're giving up a lot of pieces on defense. Bud Dupree, I understand. I'm almost giving them a pass at this point because the contract
That's fine,
he got,
especially for the money he got. Yeah,
for the money he got, and
but it's everybody else.
When he got hurt, the rookie last year, Highsmith actually played really well. Like that wasn't the actual problem, but yeah, like you're saying, the offensive line is still terrible, and secondary certainly got worse. And they lost depth pieces on defense too. But yeah, we almost want to give them a C because they also were cap strapped, so it's not like completely their fault. But like you said, there are teams and players who restructure with the Chiefs, like teams who are cap strapped. They could certainly have made another move or two to kind of keep their core, keep their playoff kind of team. So they'll be interesting to monitor, see what they do in the draft, try to fill some of these holes, try to compete next year again for the Super Bowl if they can, which doesn't seem that likely, but they'll be in the playoff hunt, you would think, at least if they're healthy. The Niners are actually a team who ended up keeping, I think, everyone, right?
Which was surprising.
Yeah, so they might be. I was thinking A for them, but it's definitely a B or A for me because going into free agency, they had about 25 million in cap, so it wasn't a crazy amount. And they ended up keeping everyone basically that was of importance. Verrett,
Alex Mack, pretty big.
Alex Mack was an addition who we actually mentioned on the preview shows. Like he should just go back to Shanahan. Completely good deal. Hopefully he stays healthy, a little bit older, but they're a team that wants to run it back, like they said. Well, that's Tampa Bay's slogan, but like
I don't know about you guys, but I really like that guy Samson. I can't pronounce his last name.
From the Rams. Yeah, he's a decent other pass rusher now on the other end with Bosa coming back. So yeah, it's either an A or B plus for me. Like
I would give them an A just because not only did they bring everyone back, but they added guys that they added pieces that they needed. They filled holes in the secondary.
Verrett mostly came back. He's not here yet, but Kwan Williams also signed back this morning. So literally, we were talking about the Niners are going to have to draft this player at 12, right? They still could if it's best player available. They don't have to force it now. So they're in control of their draft, which is cool. They can literally take the best player available and feel good about it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think I'm going to give him an A, honestly, because even Tart coming back is big for me.
I don't want to make it too long. Like if you told me going into this offseason that with the cap situation that the 49ers were able to keep two out of the three of their starting corners, able to keep, call it a fullback, whatever you want. Juszczyk is such a huge part of that offense for Shanahan and will always be as long as he's playing there. You keep Tart, you keep, Trent Williams, we thought might not have been a thing, and then you still bring on Alex Mack to help out the offensive line. It has to be an A. The way they were able to keep everybody end to end, like Markello just said, it's an A for me.
Yeah,
they were one of the
everyone, and they added a little bit too, which is cool. So yeah, I'm with you. I still have questions about the quarterback. I really want them to do something.
I know, but just in terms of free agency.
Oh yeah, of course. I want them to do something. Maybe in the draft. Let's get aggressive. The roster's good. Let's finally move on from Jimmy or keep him as a backup. Let's do something exciting.
Let's trade up and get Trey Lance on that team.
Yeah, him.
They're going to get Aaron Rodgers next year.
What do you guys think about possibly? Because listen, before we move on, I know this is not the draft show, but we'll just mention it right now. So Kyle Shanahan really doesn't seem to like super athletic quarterbacks, or based on who he's worked with, he just hasn't had many. So I'm not completely throwing out Mac Jones here to the Niners. Kyle Shanahan's favorite quarterback.
The thing is, with their free agency, they have options now. So I forgot what team we were talking about before.
Kyle Shanahan's favorite quarterback, I think, is Kirk Cousins. I'm being serious with that. He just loves Kirk Cousins. He's in love with Kirk. So
all right, but imagine a world where there's Trey Lance on that team. How much fun is that offense?
Trey Lance is not going to make it unless they trade up to 4.
Of course, but I'm saying how much fun is that offense at that point?
It would be crazy, but I don't know if.
Well, we said this in the prior show. I think Trey Lance is Colin Kaepernick, so it would just be reminiscent of that.
But Kyle Shanahan didn't want Kaepernick for multiple.
But I'm just saying the player that he is, the way I see it. I'm not obviously.
We'll see when we get there.
Differently than.
They might not even take a quarterback. I just hope they do at some point, and we'll see what they do in the draft. But free agency, an A. One of the I don't want to say surprising, but for what they had in money, really solid job.
Yep.
The Seattle Seahawks. So I actually did not hate their free agency. Usually I do. Usually I'm not a big fan of Seattle. I actually really liked Everett. Just a completely different player for them. A tight end position down there has been very weird over the years where they've, traded for Jimmy Graham, just never really worked out. they've been going through years of like, who was that guy? Disley, right? He had showed a lot of promise, and then he got hurt, and then he didn't really rebound last year. Then we were playing with like Jacob Hollister, who's okay, but that's more of Russell Wilson doing his magic. Like Everett, when we said this during our preview, I thought he was going to be a player who kind of like blossomed in his next role. And I'm glad it's with a team like Seattle because you have DK Metcalf, you have Tyler Lockett, so the attention won't be on him. Like Everett's a good yak guy too. So like I like him for this offense. I wanted him more than, I would hope maybe it was more than a year, but that's a plus signing for me. Russell Wilson seems happy, by the way. If you guys have been checking out his tweets, he's definitely tuned into what they're doing. Gabe Jackson for a fifth, even though they have no draft picks now, I think they have 2 left or 3, is still a plus. Russell Wilson was complaining this offseason, and there was speculation that he might be moved. I basically thrown them out at this point. I guess it's still possible, but at least Russell Wilson seems to be pleased again, or at least understanding of the move. So I like that for the offensive line. Chris Carson, someone we thought they were going to lose, and this contract is actually not even the real one. It's much cheaper if you read the details. So I thought they actually got him back for a steal. And the only thing I didn't like was getting rid of Dunlap. Dunlap was a lot of money. I would rather bring him back than maybe Benson, Mayo, or Kerry Hyder. But Hyder had a good year last year too. So I'm not going to completely hate on it. It just Dunlap played well for you when you traded for him. And they got Ahkello Witherspoon. So they did lose Shaquille Griffin to Jacksonville. So we can count that in as a loss. But I don't think he was ever great in Seattle. He was a very up and down player, and he was certainly never going to get paid 13.5 by Seattle. So overall, I'm probably giving them like a C+ or B. Like I'm happy with what they did. I'm not like overwhelmed, but it's certainly I do think they got better.
Yeah, me personally, if again we had like more options in terms of where to place it, like B- and stuff like that, I'd say C+, like you said, and then maybe barely B-, right? Mm-hmm. But because we don't have that, I think it's a safe C. If you want to go B, I might just be the minority saying C. I think I'm going to give it a C. I think it's more towards the C+ side, so I'm going to go C.
I think that's C+ is fair for me. That's good.
Because look, you brought back people like Chris Carson. Russell Wilson was happy about that, and then it helps bringing in the offensive lineman, right? And then Gerald Everett getting Russell Wilson another target. And look, even though you lost Dunlap, like you said, he played well for them. Any free agency class where you could bring in 2 decent edge rushers, that's always a plus.
Yep.
So I think C+ is good for me.
Yeah, I'd be in the same range.
Okay. Yeah, it wasn't like super flashy, but they definitely got better. Like we said when we discussed these teams, there's different kind of C's. Like Seattle's C is much better than the Lions C. Like you just have to listen.
Houston and Detroit are in their own class, and maybe even Cincinnati. Like those are the rebuilding C's.
Yeah, exactly. So here are our explanations. If you look at the picture, it's not going to look that like convincing. So, so Tampa Bay Buccaneers, this might be another A. Definitely a B+ team. Literally kept.
Ryan is an A.
Yeah, literally kept every single free agent, and they just got Sue back, which is not here yet. Yeah, Sue signed back this morning. So, and it's funny because we did the preview video, and I think you guys asked if Tampa gonna be able to keep all 3 of their players.
That's what I was gonna say. It's just like San Francisco, where like, okay, they're gonna lose 2 to 3 core guys, and they brought back everybody.
Yeah,
this is an intact Super Bowl team, which never happens. When a team wins a Super Bowl, you lose half your core guys, or at least a decent amount of core. Like they brought back everybody they had to bring back.
Yeah.
Who'd you lose? Leonard Fournette? You really don't need Leonard Fournette.
He's not even
played great.
He's not even.
And we think he's going to come back now.
He could come back.
He's going to come back because Carson went to Seattle. So this is an easy A for me. You bring back a Super Bowl team. You held the Kansas City Chiefs to no touchdowns, and you bring back all those guys who made that happen. That's an A for me.
Yeah, I'm with you. A for me too.
Easily A. You're defending Super Bowl champions, and you kept the whole roster together.
Yeah, and that is super rare too. Like it doesn't usually when you win a Super Bowl. I don't want to say teams get complacent, but usually they'll let a guy or 2 walk out the door. So, 2 more teams. This is an interesting team for sure. Tennessee Titans. So they made a decent amount of moves, and they also made a lot of cuts.
Yeah.
So let's start off with the positives. What did we say last year at Tennessee? What was the problem? Defense. No pass rush last year at all. So Danico Autry, who's been good with the Colts, loved that deal. Like loved him coming in. A little bit older, but I don't really care. Like Tennessee's a playoff caliber team. You need these kind of guys on your roster. big upgrade. Bud Dupree, a little bit of an overpay, but a very high-end pass rusher. I don't know if he's going to be able to put up the numbers he did without TJ Watt on the other side, but certainly an explosive pass rusher, and it's going to make the defense overall better. So another plus for me. My only question was I didn't want to get rid of Jonnu and Corey Davis. I think we said in the preview, I would rather than franchise tag Jonnu Smith, right? Keep him, like Corey Davis walk. Unfortunately, he's a good player, but we have to allocate our money wisely. So Tennessee's offense took a hit for me, definitely. They're still a draft, so I'm not going to panic yet. But they made good moves. Like Janoris Jenkins was good with the Saints. I think he's quality number 2. And we have to hope that Christian Fulton, who they took in the second round last year, becomes a starter now and a high-end starter. So I don't really mind getting rid of Malcolm Butler, who was pretty good, but the age. You know what? Dory Jackson, apparently they didn't like him in his recovery and the time he missed there. So, I'm not going to kill that move. I feel like you could have got a draft pick back for him. That's, if the Giants are willing to pay this guy $13 million per year, you could have got at least a mid-round pick back for Dory Jackson, especially his age, the upside. But they got Brown back, who's a really good linebacker, for a good deal. I like that. Lamb's okay as depth. We'll see what they do at tackle. They cut Kelly, of course. So they made a lot of moves, and and then they countered them with other moves. So I don't know how much better they got. They definitely got better defensively, but when you measure that with the offensive losses, and granted this is just free agency, not the draft, I would probably give them a C+.
Mr. Gallagher, the Jets are signing former Eagles defensive end Vinny Curry.
Yeah, we visited with him today, so
that's just depth.
Yeah, he's a rotational.
Yeah, 30% of the snaps coming on third down. Still a good pass rusher. So
yeah. Dude, you know what I like about the Titans? They got Josh Reynolds as well. That's a really underrated signing.
Yeah, and they beat him over because I guess because of the playing time, right? Because it was between them and the Chiefs. I think with Reynolds, he's going to start with the Titans. He's young too, so he could be.
Well, yeah, I think he actually becomes either the slot guy or corner or wide receiver.
He's a slot guy.
Either way, he's going to be on the field, so it's certainly not bad. The upside could be there. So Tennessee's interesting, right? Because they made a lot of moves, but they also lost some pieces. So
I don't know how you guys are going to feel about it, but me personally, I'm giving them a C. I'm not ready to give them a B, and here's why. Like you said, they made a lot of cuts of decent players and then tried replacing them with other signings, because it's not like they did nothing and sat back and just let everybody walk out like Pittsburgh did, right? They brought other guys in to replace them. And it's not that they're bad. Like Janoris Jenkins is good. Josh Reynolds is good, right? All these guys, they could do something. They brought in the edge rushers. I think Bud Dupree is an overrated pass rusher and overpaid. Again, that's just me personally. They still brought in one of the premier edge rushers in the free agency class. So however you want to take that, I think it's an overpay for a player who's not even probably going to be 100%. Actually, he won't be 100%. He might play early in the season, but he won't be 100%. So you gave him a lot of money. And Ryan, you hit the nail on the head for me. You lost. Tennessee's strength was that offense, Ryan Tannehill and the connection he built. You let Corey Davis and Jonnu Smith walk. And in this day and age in the NFL, when you have a freakish tight end, like Jonnu Smith is freakish. And when you let him walk out of the door when you could have done something like franchise tag him, I just can't agree with that. And then even if you don't want to pay a tight end that money, let's say that's your philosophy, then you don't let Corey Davis walk out either, because what he did for you in the offense last year, it's just too much of a loss offensively and not drastic enough of an improvement defensively for me.
Yeah, like I said, I'm giving it a C+, so a different kind of C.
Okay.
I will say that depending on their draft, I do think I'm going to have them in the B range in the offseason.
Yeah, so I don't want to get this confused. Just because the free agency we're rating a C, they could still finish as a B+ overall in the offseason, depending on how the draft goes. That goes for any of these teams.
And I feel like they will be free agents. I feel like they will be there. We're not there yet. We don't know, of course.
Yeah, because this is a high-end C. Like I said, they've brought people in. So if you add draft pieces to, if you draft a really good receiver, let's say, that makes up for some of that offensive things, right? So just strictly free agency, who you lost, who you brought back, and for whatever, I'd give it a C, personally.
Yeah, same boat. Markello, same with you, right? Or
yeah, C as well.
They were definitely one of the interesting, because they were so active too. They were definitely an interesting team. This might be an A. We're going to end with the Washington football team.
It has to be.
Yeah, another NFC East team that had a good offseason. Absolutely. This is something we kind of mentioned, right? So they got back Sheriff, which kind of we expected, but it was still, he still did it.
Huge.
And it's huge.
Huge.
William Jackson, huge.
I love the Fitzpatrick deal. I do. And it might not be a long-term answer. I understand. And free agency sometimes isn't for long-term options. Not every signing is for 3 to 4 years. Like from where Washington's picking in the draft, right? It's pretty unrealistic to think they're going to get any of the top 4 guys without moving up. Probably the top 5 now with Mac Jones. So they would have to give up a lot. And could they still do that? Technically, yes, but now they don't have to force themselves into doing that. Fitzpatrick, and I don't even hate to say this, but like the way he's been playing, right, with Tampa and then even Miami, like I'm not saying he's a high-end starter, but like he is better than like at least I feel like 5 to 10 quarterbacks every single year who are starters. I think
he's like a journeyman, Hall of Fame journeyman.
Yeah, he's almost gotten better.
If you make a Hall of Fame class just for journey quarterbacks,
yeah, he would be on top. And he's almost gotten better with age. Like I'm serious. Like he's better now than he was with the Jets. And I know that year he had was like a one magical year. But like he's actually more consistent and steady now. Like he's not. It's not saying that there's not going to be Fitztragic again. But like I don't know. He's been good for me, and I think he's a big upgrade from Dwayne Haskins last year. And Alex Smith, we couldn't count on him to stay healthy for 16 games. We've seen what happened at the end of the year. It was like fluky injuries, and then his like ankle was like screwed up, and he couldn't really play. So they couldn't rely on that. William Jackson, very good corner in this Ron Rivera defense. This defense was already
elite.
Love it. Ronald Darby played good last year. Okay, we're gonna get better. That's what they said. They're like, we're gonna let Darby walk, and we're gonna sign the best corner on the market. They did, and they got him at a reasonable deal. 14's a little bit expensive, but Shaquille Griffin went for 13.5, and Dory Jackson went for 13. I will take William Jackson, even though he's older, over those 2 guys any day of the week. So like that for the defense. And what do they do for their offense? Curtis Samuel. A lot of
number 2 receiver. You got one.
A lot of people linked him here, and he will play a multitude of roles. Like he doesn't have to play running back here because they have Gibson, who's already like dimensional and good. But if they wanted to, they can play him a little bit there. And I like it for Terry. I like it for just the entire offense. And Washington, yeah, they're an A for me.
Yeah, you pretty much summed it up for me. You took an already elite roster and somehow made it better, right? So I don't know how you could debate that. Like, I think a lot of people are going to pick them to be the favorites to win the division.
They are.
They're my favorites to win the division, but I don't think Dallas or the Giants are slouches either. But in terms of favorites to win betting odds, it has to be Washington. This is too elite of a roster.
Washington for me right now,
and this is just without the draft. They got drastically better, and it's only free agency. They still have the draft. Me personally, I know you like the Ryan Fitzpatrick thing. Me personally, I think you're going to be better than a pick 20 this year. I think you're going to be further into the playoffs. So if you were going to get a quarterback, I thought this was the year to trade up to get one. But they
still can. That's the beauty of it. Like I'm just saying that it wasn't forced now to do it.
I know
Fitzpatrick. So,
but look, I'd rather Fitzpatrick than somebody like Andy Dalton, right? So
yeah,
for what you got, good value.
So this was actually a long video. We can end it here before we end it. Any final thoughts? So we have a couple A's.
I'm happy with the way it came out. So like if you're just looking at this like on Twitter or whatever it is, and you just see these teams, like if you're a fan of them, like I already know if you're a fan of, let's say, I think the D teams are accurately ranked because now they said that Baltimore was in on T.Y. Hilton, couldn't get that closed either. So, but if you're a team like the Titans at C, you might get mad, or like Saints fans might get upset seeing the Saints there. Seahawks fan, I know, will get upset. Seattle fans are crazy. Like they'll get upset being in the C category. But if you watch for the reasoning and like the C pluses we gave, I'm happy with our list.
Yeah. And just for anyone, I mean, if you skip all the way to the end of the video, thank you. But like we said, with these, rankings, it's not about like, there's different kind of C's, there's D's, and this isn't the whole offseason, guys. This is just the start. We're literally only 7-8 days from the start of free agency. So the draft's a major factor. And some of these teams were unfortunately cap strapped, so it's not all their fault. So, but anyway, thank you guys for joining another week. This was fun, even though it was a longer one. And the next
week is mock draft 2.0.
We'll have mock draft 2.0. So, see you guys next week.
Talk to you guys later.